stay in England, tell me she stay, you know? You saw the picture of the Pope and all of that? Picture of the Pope and all of that?
Oh, not yet.
I sent you all of them.
Yes, you did.
All the letters and everything.
Yes, but you will like though. Don't forget. I'm hearing something else.
I love to hear. I'm not seeing it now. Pretty.
What's that?
Pretty, I'm not seeing it.
Click on it. You have to click on the link.
Oh, okay.
I have prepared it already. Don't forget.
So it's live while I'm gonna?
Yes, we are live. Oh no, it's alright. It's all fine. Remember, we always tell people our show is a radio show. We just facilitate. So, but you need to lower yours. You need to lower that.
Oh yes, I should. Yeah, sorry. The
We
media.
just accommodate the social media people. So good night, social media people. I'm hearing them. Yes, I'm live here, but not on the radio. I'm hearing some media.
Mr. Joseph, I am extremely proud to have been associated with you. I am a product of your hard work. You are the best of the best, an epitome of a principal, a true professional, and I can proudly say that despite all the critics and naysayers, you should keep your head up high like a peacock. You taught us how to manage our time, execute teaching meaningfully to our students, conduct ourselves as is required according to the Education Regulations and Act. And for this and more, I am truly grateful for your impact in my life as a teacher. Even today, I missed you while I was at work. You deserve all the kudos. We need more principals like you, firm and dedicated to the task. Thank you, Mr. Joseph. Thank you.
So when I think of Simeon Joseph, I think of 5 things. I think of his creativity. I saw it in the way he embraced the VIP lounge vision along with Giselle Astafan, and how they produced this 5-star tented space with top shelf liquor and food with a very, very tight budget. And then I saw his professionalism in all things, even when under pressure. I saw how he worked, especially on that secondary stage, which was for the young rising stars in the food court. and he just got a young team together and embraced the vision of looking, having a place for young rising stars and young bands to come, so that we could see what we could put on the big stage. And then he's always focused. Once he latched on to something, he's always focused and he's always loyal to a fault. Simeon Joseph for me was a great ally along with Owen Bully. They were definitely team players, people to work with, because they would never let you down. Once Simeon says yes to something, he's not going to let you down, and he is going to work within a budget, and he's going to bring his A game to whatever the project is that he's working on. I really, really appreciated you, Simeon. Thank you so much for the time and the effort and just the love that you showed to me when I was in the Commonwealth of Dominica. Much respect, man. Manners and respect every time.
Good evening, Fredina. Good evening, Simeon, and of course, good evening to the listeners of the In the Spotlight show. I have worked with Simeon for many, many years, not only in my current capacity as the festival and events manager, but long before that, when I didn't know how far I would have gotten at BFC, when I wasn't sure of myself as a professional, and when I was just looking to improve my skills, in the entertainment, in the business world. Simeon is somebody that I grew to love, and I think he grew to love me as well, not only from a professional perspective, but as individuals. I have learned a lot from him over the years. He's a very, very resourceful man, if I should say so. He's somebody that I could just pick up the phone and call and say, hey, Simeon, we have to do this. I'm putting together my team. I would like you to take up responsibility of X, Y, and Z. He would come. He never showed me any disrespect or say, I've been in the industry before you, or she's a child or whatever. Always respectful of me as an individual, always helping me to grow. He would come to my office, we would sit, he would understand my vision of that particular project. He would tell me what his vision is. We would make sure, the visions coincide. Simeon, here is your budget. These are the guidelines and so on, and then he would run with it. And I will give you an example. The World Choir Music Festival, which was implemented in 2019, is one that is still being talked about. And if you know me well, I always speak about my team. Simeon is part of that team who ensured that the World Choir Music Festival was successful, not only from designing the entire run sheet, not only for the performances, but for everything that was happening in between, but also implementing what happened in the forecourt. So bringing together all the young artists. He not only made sure that they performed in the forecourt. The amazing thing is, the plan included training them. There was voice training involved. There was training on how to write a bio, how to put your music together, how to market yourself as a young artist in Dominica. And as the manager, I always know at any given time what is happening on the grounds during an event. But having a team that is self-sufficient, that can deal with issues for you on the ground without having any implications for the organizations or any implications for you as the manager of the event is amazing. And Simeon Joseph is that person. I value him because of that. I adore him. I don't only call him when it comes to work-related matters. He plays a role in my personal life as well. He's somebody I can call, speak to. We have those lengthy discussions, we laugh, we chill out, and also everybody knows Simeon can make a good crap back. So, Simeon, thank you very much for the person you are. Thank you very much for so much that you have taught me over the years when it comes to event planning, when it comes to the implementation. Thank you very much for respecting me as an individual and always giving me that strength, to persevere, to grow, and to motivate me as an individual. Thank you for standing with me when it seemed like, my whole world was upside down. Thank you for motivating me, for helping me upgrade myself to higher levels. I wish you the best of luck. I really hope that we can work together in the near future. Yes, you're amazing.
Didn't expect all of this. Didn't expect all of this. When you got this thing,
Starting things off a bit different in 2022. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the In the Spotlight radio show. I decided to go this route tonight because I wanted my guest to know how much he is loved and appreciated, especially by those with whom he has worked in whatever capacity. I was only able to do this today, or else I would have gotten some more, I can tell you that. Welcome to the In the Spotlight radio show. We'll get to our guest in just a while. Let us allow him to digest and savor all what was just said so eloquently about him by these three ladies. I'll tell you who they are in case you were not too sure of the voices in just a while. So happy New Year to everyone. Happy New Year. I wish all of you the best for 2022. Let us be realistic and reasonable with our expectations for 2022. And I'll tell you, we'll get to that in a while, don't you worry. So those of you who already know, we were named best host of 2021. And I said today, you know what? I worked so hard for this show. I really put a lot of time, effort, energy, and even my personal resources into this show. It's not a show that I get paid to do. I do this for the love of it and for just having this platform to allow persons to share their stories. And I thank you, 95, for allowing me this time on a Monday night to be able to come here, bring different personalities and, different stories that motivate and inspire. And as I always say, I continue to do it in honor of my late father. So we thank all those of you who are listening, whether through the airwaves of Q95 FM on their various frequencies. If you're listening or tuned in via the official In the Spotlight radio show page, that is the link that was actually sent via the WhatsApp broadcast. Those of you who are tuned in via our group, we do have an In the Spotlight radio show fans group. And occasionally you might get an invite from me to join. Just accept and join us. We have some good fun in there sometimes. And of course on my personal page, Trudina Fountain, we're also there as well. The link is there. Let us acknowledge again Q95 for allowing us to be here on a Monday night. We thank Josephine Gabriel and company. I owe my guest a bottle of barefoot wine. Compliments Josephine Gabriel and company. I intended on collecting today, but we'll do that soon enough. Thank you, Josephine Gabriel, and for your water as well. Chwapita water that you provide to us. We thank Dominican News Online for sharing our flyer to help spread the message as to which guest is on the program on a Monday night. And we thank Jordan Jerome, aka GK. And don't forget to check out his short film, It's Not Enough, on YouTube. Check it out. Good job, GK. Looking forward to more of that. We also have Akim Lowe. Akim, thank you for my very nice and clean flyers that you always provide to me. Thank you for that. The supporters of the show, there are some people, you know, who occasionally send me a donation. You know, they donated t-shirts. You know, there are people who give some supports, you know, in the background, and I really want to thank you for the support. Don't forget our Cash App. It's pinned to the live, so if you want to make a donation to us, feel free to do that. And if you want to do otherwise, you can always inbox me. Most persons know my number, but the show's number is 275-7565. That's 275-7565. Or you can send a message via Facebook Messenger as well. And say, Fidana, I would like to make a donation to your show. How can I do it? Alright, so that's about it as we do our introductions on the show for tonight. Welcome once again, one and all, and let's go across and say good evening to our guest tonight, Simeon. I know. I didn't mean to do that, but, you know, because you went, you know, Simeon, you went above and beyond with your promo video, and I said, you know what, I have to outdo him. How can I outdo him? But good evening to you and welcome, and thank you for finally accepting my invitation, which was made about 3 years ago.
Indeed.
And here you are this evening.
Yes,
I'm going to allow you the opportunity to say hello and good evening to everyone.
Well, first of all, for Nines, hello, good evening. I'm actually, where do I begin?
Yes.
Your introduction just, I recognize 2 people. I don't recognize the first one.
The third is a Miss Valerie.
Oh!
No, right. So Miss Valerie gave me a little joke about you that you had sent her home to change her pants. So.
I got. Yeah, that was.
So that was Natalie. Natalie
yes,
White.
Yes.
Miss Valerie.
I recognize
and Marva.
And Natalie, of course, 3 people close to my heart. But I must say I was touched by that. And I must say the latter Marva, to me, is a gem, someone who I admire. But I would like us to begin with a prayer.
Sure.
Okay.
Before we say more.
Yes. Okay. So, Father God, we thank you for this evening. In Psalm 8, you said you have made us little less than a God with honor and glory. You can't crown us. So we thank you for this moment, Lord, and we thank you for life. We thank you for bringing us here. We thank you for Fudina, for Q95, for the listeners of this program, and for Dominica in general, for friends and family, for supporters, and for all those who are with us. We ask you to, in this program, let your eyes and your blessings be on those who will see us, hear us, and listen to us. And we bless this moment, we bless this journey, this period, and we call upon you, Father, to be with us. Bless the dines, and I ask you to invoke your presence in me, within me, and around me, and all those who are listening. Be with us at this moment, Lord, and crown us with your glory and honor. Christ our Lord. Amen.
Amen. Let's break the ice a little, Simeon, before you continue talking about those lovely ladies whom I shared the voice notes from earlier on. Okay, so I'm going to ask you a couple of questions, right? The first one is one that, you know, is traditional. Everybody asks this one. So coffee or tea?
Coffee.
Coffee.
Always.
How many cups?
I used to 8 cups a day, now it's 1 cup a day.
8 cups?
I used to 8 cups a day, now it's 1 cup a day. I have coffee in the morning, mid-morning, before lunch, after lunch, afternoon, evening. Now it's 1 cup a day, on the advice of my doctor.
On the advice of your doctor.
Yes. Coffee
Okay.
all the way.
Working from home or from the office?
Either. For me, my energies and my creativity flows in whatever space I find myself.
Awesomeness. What would the title of your autobiography be?
To go beyond what others expect of me. To demand more of myself than what others expect of me. I have another one, but I'm not sure if it's appropriate for the air.
Is it?
Yes, I can say it. cheers to those who wish me well, and fuck those who don't.
Okay. You should have said F those.
Sorry, but I mean,
bleep on that.
yeah, you asked me to be.
That's what we're gonna get tonight. That's what we're going to get tonight. No, let me tell you, the first one. So I did a poll,
Right.
and I asked the question. Let me see if I remember the question clearly. Let's go. You had me there with that one.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. It's nighttime, so it's alright. Okay, let's go. So the question was, select the option you think is our upcoming guest Simeon Joseph's professional service motto. Do your best and let God do the rest, I think is one. Demand more of yourself.
Wow.
Oh gosh, look, I can't see the rest because it's not opening up for me. But anyway, and another one read, anticipate high demands, and oh gosh, it's not opening for me. But anyway, I put those. But it's the one you just said. The first
That's
one.
been my motto for years, to demand more of yourself than others expect of you.
Okay. All right. Okay. You gave me the title of that is what it was, right?
Yes.
If you had to delete all but 3 apps from your phone, what would they be?
All but 3?
If you were to keep
I would
3.
keep 3.
Yes.
I would keep Facebook.
You'd keep Facebook.
I would keep WhatsApp.
You'd keep WhatsApp.
And I would keep Laudauti.
What's Laudauti?
It's a Catholic app with prayers and readings and everything, which I use daily.
Okay. Laudauti.
Laudauti.
Interesting.
It's Latin for praise. Yeah.
What does your favorite shirt look like?
Blue.
Blue.
Yeah. That's my favorite.
That's your favorite color.
That's my favorite
So
color.
we get to know 2 things: what your favorite shirt looks like and what's your favorite
Yes.
color. Okay, you are going to sail around the world.
Wow.
What's the name of your boat?
Maybe Serenity Cruises.
Serenity Cruises. Nice.
That's questions.
If you were given a superpower, what would that superpower be?
A superpower.
Yes.
Endurance.
Endurance. What's your favorite tradition or holiday?
My favorite tradition or holiday is adventure.
Is adventure.
Yes.
All right. So
Historical adventure. Yeah.
historical adventure.
Yeah.
Let your guest know that he has a big fan out there. I just love listening to him speak, no matter the topic. All right, keep them coming. Keep them coming.
Okay.
So Simeon, I just wanted to break the ice a little.
Yeah.
Let me tell you, we did break the ice, didn't
Yeah,
we?
indeed.
What a way to start 2022, I tell you. So Simeon, let's go back to the beginning with those ladies that you were just speaking about, the 3 of them, and then we're going to get into the meat of the matter.
Yes.
Yes, tell me. Somebody say you're real.
You have to be authentic in life.
That's it.
No fake.
Yes.
No phony.
So we were talking about Miss Valerie.
Valerie, yes.
Yes, and Natalie.
Natalie.
And
Marva.
Marva.
Of course,
And I
yeah.
think you were talking about Marva at the time before we went.
Right.
How did it make you feel hearing from them?
Listen to me, I was surprised, I was touched, and I became emotional at some point.
That's what you did to me with your video.
Yes. I became emotional at some point. Listening to all 3 of them, I'll tell you why. Marva, for me, is germane to the idea of development, of creativity, but above all, of a woman after my own heart, setting high standards and expectations. Now, I first met Marva on a bus one day. I did not have a vehicle at the time, not met her, but got acquainted with her on a bus one day going up to Goodwin, and Marva was on the bus. Marva was on the bus and she was giving somebody a piece of their mind.
Oh, Jesus.
And that's when I saw her. Fast forward to Marva working at DFC. We became involved in working with each other. And I have marveled and admired to see how Marva has grown and developed and expanded her horizons and maximized her potential. And Marva is one person I can say Dominica in future years must look out for who Marva Williams will be. There's no doubt about it. And anybody who underestimates Marva Williams is doing a serious injustice to the personality that she is. I believe she's going to blossom, flourish, and make a very positive mark, not only in the landscape of Dominica, but in the world at large. Yeah, Marva is that kind of person. I'm very proud of her. I'm extremely proud of Marva. You know, we've grown professionally, personally, emotionally, and even spiritually as well. And so she's akin to someone whom I can use as a model for anybody who wants to make it in life. Yes. Natalie, again, it was a pleasure working with Natalie from Antigua from the time she came to Dominica Days. One of the things I respected about Natalie is that she allowed me to utilize my creativity, my knowledge, my intellect, my skills and my abilities. And I have, Nathalie Clark is one of the few persons I have worked with in life who allowed Simeon to be Simeon, unencumbered, without any cap, without any restrictions. Nathalie allowed me to be who I am and for us to grow together. Rita Valerie was a young girl who started working with me at Maribel Secondary School. And one of the things one of my mottos in life is setting high standards with high expectations. Because I believe you have to set high standards in life. You cannot only go for the mere minimum. And so if you strive for 100%, if you make a mistake, you fall on 99. So you have to strive for 200. So if you make a mistake, you will fall on 150. And that is why I always instill in people, I don't accept mediocrity, I don't accept the bare minimum or mere standards. So Erita came one day dressed, inappropriately dressed, with a 3/4 pants and a tight pants, and I said, excuse me, you don't enter my compound dressed like that as a teacher. Go back to Penville, change that clothes, and come back on the school compound. She did. And well, she's good for herself, but she told me no one had ever spoken to her like that before. And she came back properly dressed, and I said, okay, no, that's the standard. And I want you to be a model to every female teacher who comes after you, so I don't have to send anybody else back home.
And she understood that.
Yes, she understood
She
that.
understood that. And she understood what it would mean for her in the long run.
In the long run. And I'm very proud of her too,
Yes,
actually.
yes.
I've liked what she has become.
Wow.
Strange enough. But I must say, for that, all in all, those clips almost threw me off my chair.
Well, Herring came in the icebreakers, so we could just get you back into the groove of things.
Yes.
So, Simeon, I'm not sure if we did that, but again, just an opportunity to say good evening to everyone.
Oh, yes.
And to welcome them to the program with you.
Yes, thank you.
And to give them a sense of what to expect tonight.
Well, we'll see where it goes. But then I did this for you. You've been
Yes.
asking me for 3 years.
Yes,
I have a lot of
thank
respect
you.
for you.
Thank you.
I have a lot of respect for you because of your father, who helped me to develop my media personality skills and radio and reading skills. I have a lot of affection for your father, particularly when I knew he went through political in 1979 and how he endured it. I have a lot of respect for you because I have tracked you, listening to you on GBS, graduating to Flow and Lime and everything, and for what you have become.
Yes,
And that's me. And so I couldn't say no to you.
Yes.
I mean, after 3 years, I couldn't say no to you. So thanks for, or you could curse me as I used to.
and you know, Simeon, what I admire about you and what I appreciate about you is your honesty, no matter what the end result is. And I'll tell you what I mean. There are times you've come to me after programs and said, for Dinah, this program was such and such. And I remember one time you told me I had a guest on the program, and there was a young person who was even contemplating suicide.
Yes.
And that person was listening to that particular program that night, and it's almost like the program saved them.
Definitely.
I've shared that story, but I never said it was you shared that story with me, on the show. But likewise, you would also say to me at one point, Fidine, I think you're losing a little focus with the program. You need to probably get back to this or get back to that. And I appreciated the feedback every time you gave it to me. Because that proves exactly what you just said a while ago, that the level of respect you have for me that is the reason why you would give me the feedback.
Definitely.
Whether you think it may hurt me or upset me, it was good feedback. It was not negative feedback.
Right.
It was just good feedback to say, Fidina, I enjoyed listening more when you had these types of guests. And I appreciate it.
Yeah, Fidina, I'm that kind of, I like to see people grow. I like to see people improve themselves. And I am the person, sometimes I can come across very harsh. I'm a stern disciplinarian, and I'm also a very straightforward critic of things. I don't like mixing bones.
That's right.
I always say to myself, perhaps there are 4 people who might go to hell. These are policemen, priests, pastors, and things, because sometimes the position that you are in, you have to very much be politically correct and avoid hurting people's feelings and avoid saying things that can cause. But sometimes I believe you have to be frank with people. And so sometimes there are people who have to tell people, it's good, even if it's not good, because you don't want to hurt their feeling. Or you have to tell them things like, you were nice, you were good, but even if you know it can be better. No, I think that's misleading. Because if you tell somebody something is good and you know it can be better, you are not allowing them to grow. If you tell somebody something is very nice and you know it could be nicer and better, you are not allowing the person to maximize what they want to do. So my approach has always been, listen to things, and if something is not good, I'll say it. If I say it in a way that you don't like it, I appreciate you telling me, I will apologize and I'll say it again, but I won't leave you. I never leave people. Sometimes a lot of people have turned their backs on me for being honest with them, but I never turn my back on anyone. I may distance myself, I may quieten myself, but deep within me is the conviction that you have to allow people to grow sometimes, and growth is painful. There is no growth process that is not painful. So if sometimes I have to be that little pinch, maybe that's my destiny, that's my mission. And so if you have to do it to people to allow them to grow so that they become fully human and fully alive, I think that is the better way to go.
Excellent, excellent, Simeon. So tonight we're going to get a bit of that, a bit of that frankness, but I know we're going to get honesty and we're going to get realness on the program tonight. Simeon, when you sent me your promotional video, I came back to you and I said, Simeon, you got me all emotional. Just recap for me again what you said in that promotional video and why you decided to go that route.
Okay, remember you called me the night and I told you I'll do something in the morning.
Yes.
So I'll be honest with you, all I did was I put on a fresh shirt on me, but I had my short pants on. And I was drinking my coffee. And while I was drinking my coffee, I said, what do I put in that promotional video? And then while I was thinking, I got a call of someone telling me that they're about to give up about something because of a situation that they were in. And I told the person, you always have to look on the bright side and see good in every situation. And that's what sparked that saying. Understand that the world needs you to believe in the good. Because you can be faced with a lot of negativity in life, within and without, from people, from your environment, some from your home and from circumstances. But if you allow the negativity around you to subsume you, to overcome you, you will see everything as dark and bleak. And so in the midst of the storm, you have to smile. In the midst of everything that is not good, you have to look for the good. And that's how I operate sometimes. Sometimes if I'm in the worst of situation, I look for the one good. If I have friends and they have mistreated me, I try to remember the one good time that we had. If I am dealing with someone who has been ungrateful, I try to remember the one good thing that that person has done for me. And that is how it is. And that is why sometimes I have been through a lot in my life with Ida, but I'm not bitter. As I said, I may be distant, I may be reserved, I may be quiet, but I try to live with, life is short, very short. We can go just like that. And so you have to see the good in everything. And that's why I just said that the world needs you to believe in the good. Don't give up. Keep striving.
How do we
keep
find
working.
that good though, Simeon, amidst everything?
The spark of the divine. Fedina, I have a saying, don't give up because God isn't finished with me yet. Now, one of my spiritual writers is John Powell, very powerful spiritual writer. He wrote books like Why Am I Afraid to Love? Why Am I Afraid to Tell You Who I Am? Fully Human, Fully Alive, Unconditional Love, The Christian Vision. The Christian Vision is a very deep and insightful book. And when you are able to tune in to positivity, it becomes implanted in you. So one thing I stay away from negative people. If you call me for dinner and you tell me somebody says something about me, I hang up the phone on you. I don't want to hear it. Okay? When I was principal of a certain school once, the chief education officer called me and he told me that somebody called him. I said, who called you about what? He's not going to tell me. I just put down the phone on him.
You did?
I don't want to hear negativity. That is it. If I am your friend, you could be the worst criminal. Nobody's going to tell me anything. My experience of you, my knowledge of you, my dealing with you has to be with my experience of you. No, because people like to taint people's name and taint people's reputation. So that's how you do it. And my journey through life has been where I have encountered a lot of knocks from birth to now. I have faced knocks socially, economically, religiously, and politically.
Will you share some of those with us tonight?
Yeah, I mean, in the spotlight. but then, through it all, we have to tell ourselves, we have to not, and thank God for my father. When we were growing up, he never entertained us coming to tell him anything negative people did to us. Because his statement to us was, one, people don't send stones behind green mangoes.
That's right.
And it's because you are ripe. Why people will want to attack you. So just don't ever, take on negativity. So if people attack you, it means there's something good in you. So never listen to negativity. So these are the things that, I think has been imbibed in me to see the good in every situation. Because you see, my experience through life has taught me that whatever I go through, look for whatever little good that there is.
For the silver
As a child, yes, as a child of God, we are endowed with divine qualities. And if we allow the negative elements in our lives to overshadow us, we can become very pessimistic. But if we dwell on the divine sparkiness, the goodness, the righteousness, the friendliness, the love, the charity, we remain positive. It's not easy. It's not easy. There's a song we sing in the Catholic Church, to be the body of the Lord in this world. You think that easy? It's not easy. It's not easy at all.
You just spoke about your father. Now, you come from a pretty much well-known family. In Dominica, your brothers and sisters, very talented, very intelligent, very well-known. Let's talk about your family tree, your family history.
Well, we're really in the spotlight.
Yes, we are.
My family originated from Calabishi. My mother was the daughter of Matilda Warrington. My father was the son of St. Hughes Joseph. And there's something remarkable again that maybe I have to say before I begin. My mother's roots are from Vickers. The Ruiz, actually my mother was the second cousin to E.O. Libla. My grandmother and E.O. Libla's mother were first cousins. So we are that close. The Brumans, the Ruiz, the Liblas in Vickers, that's my mother's connection. The Massicots, that's my mother's connection. And my father's connection would be the Josephs. Now, on my grandfather's side, the generation isn't large, but my grandfather had he got married 3 times. He outlived 2 of his wives, all his wives as a matter of fact. And so he had 3 sets of children. My grandmother, Matilda Warrington, owned the village of Calabishi. So, because it was her estate. So she owned the village of Calabishi. So if you know, from the time you enter Calabishi, from where Webster Mary lives now, going all the way up past the credit union, that was my grandmother's estate. She inherited it because she was the only child of the landowner. Her mother was a poor lady who worked on the estate and was impregnated by the son of the estate owner.
I see.
And she was the only child, Matilda Warrington. So things like where the Catholic Church is, she donated the land for that. Where the school is, she donated the land for that. A lot of things. So from what you call live here to going all the way inside, that was my grandmother's estate. So that was Matilda Warrington, and my mother was, of course, her first daughter with her husband. She had an aunt before, and so my grandmother. So that was my grandmother. And on the other side, my grandfather owned the other half of Calavish, which is from Dibic going all the way to Hodges, belonging to the Amos estate, St. Eves Joseph. So, but he sold out his land very early in the game to the Amos, and they expanded the estate where you have Dibic now, etc. So that basically is my roots. My father was, how you call it, he was first a teacher. Educated, of course, in the old Hampstead School. I don't know if when you drive into Calavish on the Douglas Estate, you see the old Methodist Church. That's the old school my father went to. And my parents as well. My mother has many stories of going to that school, crossing the river and many things. And when I listen to my mother tell stories of you, so my mother and my father, and that's when both of them began to teach. So my father was a teacher, and my mother was also a teacher. But my mother gave up teaching because, of course, in those days, when you got married and you started having children, you have to stay home to take care of the children. My father continued teaching, eventually became the headmaster. He was the first headmaster of Calavish School. And then he was also headmaster in Wesley and a few other places. Then he moved on to be a social worker. And then he eventually was the first local government commissioner in Dominica. He was chief elections officer, and he started the local government and community development department.
This is good information on your family history.
So my father could be considered the father of local government in Dominica. One of the good things about my father is he kept diaries from 1952 until his death. And one of the treasures I have is when I go through those diaries, I can find the founding of every village council in Dominica, who was the first village council in this. Actually, just the other day, I handed over to the documentation center several copies of my father's notes and welfare news, because contained in those things is a wealth of information of the founding of all the first village councils around Dominica. My father almost lost his life on several occasions because in those days he had to go around. Actually, one of my bigger brothers and my father almost got drowned in Hampstead River. One day they were coming back from the inaugural meeting of the village council in Tebow, and on the way back the river was raging. So passing through, both my father and my bigger brother almost got drowned in that. And that is it. My mother is just my mother, a devoted mother, very humble lady, very prayerful lady, very jovial lady. She's 93. I'm happy to have her.
She's still alive.
My mother is still very much alive and kicking, and you cannot get a better party animal than my mother at 93. I'm grateful to God. I almost lost my mother in 2000 because she had a heart attack on a plane.
Your sister had a video of your mom on Facebook some time ago. Yeah. They were unveiling her. Oh, I saw that. Yes. That's your mommy.
That's my mom.
Correct.
That's my mom.
Yes.
And she almost lost her life in 2000. She had a heart attack on the plane going to Boston.
Oh,
and then she has pacemakers and a stent in her heart, but you will never know that.
Wow.
As far as I'm concerned, my mother is fully alive and kicking. When there's a party to go to in Boston, before everybody else says that she's dressed and ready to go, and she's the first one on the floor. So, and I'm happy to have her sit around. And she's been the pillar of strength. My mother, one of the things I admire my mother for, in fact, there were 11 of us. 11 of us. And it wasn't easy. I have drank flour pap for breakfast. I'm not ashamed to say it. Pap bakes. Bush tea and dry bread and biscuits.
But pause, Simeon. But somebody would say your parents or your grandparents and so owned most of Calavish. How did it get so? That?
I'll tell you, because you see, my grandmother or my mother and my father instilled in us the virtue that the only thing they were going to give us is education and a good name. Do you know my father died in 1997 and I never know the property that he owned. Not one of my family members knew. I found out the property my father owned after his death.
Right. Because
he never grew us up that we had. Because all he would have, and he died without a will. And the only thing he said he would leave for us is a good name and education. You understand? And that was it. And so, but you see, my father was a public servant, and having 10 children growing up at the time, remember my grandmother had other children, so everything did not belong to my mother. What my grandmother gave my mother is what she gave my mother. What she gave her other children is what she gave her other children. And uncles in England, an aunt in Antigua, etc.
It was shared.
It was shared.
Yes,
It was shared. So we have inheritance. But in the 60s and 70s growing up, I remember after my father died, finding one of his salary slips of 1971.
You found that?
Yes, he kept all his salary slips. And I saw in 1971 the salary was $700 and something.
1971.
1971.
To take
for
care
the
of
local government commissioner of Dominica.
Wow.
And so
you pay that amount of money for your car.
Exactly. Exactly. And then I found that after. I said, but how did my father do it? But my mother could make a $5 and a $20 stretch. When I was the youngest boy in the family, my mother would send me to Suki's or Hayden's or Ma Guntrop shop or Ma Boat shop or somebody to shop in. She would give me a little list and she'd put the price by everything. And when I would go to buy the things to come back home, okay? When we came home for lunch, everybody had something to eat. My mother knew how to, what you call home economics in those days. Today we have food and nutrition and whatever. There was home economics, you know, and my mother knew how to stretch things. We were never in want, and my mother was a seamstress. She sewed for all my sisters, okay? My mother was a baker. My mother was a cook. My mother did everything. We never went out and bought anything. I grew up knowing my mother cooking, baking, sewing, flower garden, and doing everything to sustain and maintain our family. My father would go out, and even sometimes when my father would, when I was born, my father was not in Dominica, in England at the time. And so I remember my father going to Africa, Trinidad, Jamaica, everything. And my mother would be the one to collect his salary and manage it well for all of us, pay all the bills, feed all of us, and do all of that. So, I mean, that's in a nutshell is the back. Then music, we could not be not musical. We grew up with a piano at our home, all of us. We grew up knowing my father being able to play 4 instruments: guitar, violin, piano, and a little bit of the steel, and flute and recorder. Now, we used to have family time at home. Sometimes on a Friday or a Saturday night, my father would forbid us. We couldn't go out without my father's permission, even my bigger brothers and sisters. So what we had to do was sit around that piano and have Michael or Annie or Paolo or somebody on the piano, and we'd sing together. That's what our family entertainment was on the weekends. And so sometimes wherever we would go, we would have to come back home as a family to have singing time at home. We were encouraged to be in choirs. We were encouraged to be in different groups. From the time we were small, we always remembered my mother and my father saying that they would be involved in music with H.L. Christian, who indoctrinated them into talent shows and those kind of things in the village, acting and everything. So that inspired us. And throughout our lives, we always had an elder brother or sister in something. So my sister Mimi was in music, my brother Jefferson was in music, and etc., etc., etc. And so we were just, my sister Florence was in one of the founding members of the St. Alphonsus Youth Choir, and so forth. So we were always involved in music. So that was the musical part.
Do you remember any of the songs that you all sang?
As for the old folks at home. As for the old folks at home. You know that song?
No.
Yeah.
As for the old folks
at home. Mm.
In terms of your parents, I'm listening to everything your father did, your mother's skills, her abilities. From the both of them, what is it that you think they instill in you, Simeon Joseph?
Discipline and high standards. There was no mediocrity in my family from my father. If something was not done properly, it had to be redone. There was nothing about that's how it is or that's how I can do it. There was a standard to everything. If I would wash my father's car, he would walk around it and look for a speck of dust and make me wash it all over again, for instance. As a young boy growing up, we always had backyard gardens, and there was no doubt every Saturday I had to go and weed the gardens, the lettuce bed, the side bed, the parsley bed, whatever, and assist my bigger brothers into whatever. And if there was one grass left, he would say, go back and take it out and that kind of thing there. So discipline and hard work. He never accepted mediocrity in education. He knew we may not have been the most intelligent, but as far as he was concerned, excellence in education was important. So we had to read well. When we were growing up, we all had to present our homework on the table for my father to see, no matter where he was. Whether he came in 9, 10, 11 o'clock and we were in the bed, the homework had to be on the table. So when he came home, he would peruse the homework to make sure homework was done. He had the habit of visiting our schools without PTA meetings. Going to Goodwill School, whether it's Miss Clinton, whether it's Mr. Edwards, whether it's whoever, and inquire about his students at school. Sometimes we'd be at school and we just see my father driving up for coming there, came to inquire about us at school. Okay? And that's how it is. He never dropped us to school. Never. Wherever we lived, we had to walk our way there and walk back. And that was for self-sufficiency. That was for time management. That was to make sure that we got, and then one couldn't come home without the other. If one of us did come home without the other, sometimes the strap would pass. Where is Simeon? Where is Dorothy? Or Carnival, if you go to Carnival, everyone have to come back home together at a particular time too. Okay? Although we have many escapades of stowing as children and those kind of things. So this is it, discipline and hard work.
Mommy.
Yeah. We never had things like money in our pockets for Christmas to think, well, okay, new clothes only came at confirmation, first communion and Christmas. No about you going knock on it like a pant and a shirt, buy it for me, never happened. Sometimes my mother would sneak a little thing and treat us. But that's what my father was concerned. And things were given out of reward. You get something out of reward. You have to earn your keep. And nothing about you helping in the house as a $5 for doing this or 10, nothing of that sort. I'm feeding you, I'm sending you to school, I'm clothing you, you have to play your part in the house. And that's what it was about. It's nothing about here's for this, nothing of that, nothing of the sort. And above all, we have to respect our mother. I think the worst beatings would come if we even tell our mother troops or turn our back on our mother while she was speaking to us. We dare not disrespect our mother, not on any moment of the thing, and that was it. So these are the values. I say discipline and hard work, respect for elderly. When we were growing up, every Christmas we would go to midnight mass, and on Boxing Day we all had to pack ourselves in the car, stop in Woodfordale, stop in Calgary, and tell all the elders and our family Merry Christmas. And when sometimes you would go back to town, okay, they used to have those big trucks that were travel 3 o'clock in the morning. You had to get up on the trucks. We had to the day before go and tell our grandmother bye-bye and our aunt bye-bye and everybody before we came back down to town. And we could never call an elderly by the first name. It had to be Mr. This or Mrs. This. So these are some of the things that we instill in us. Discipline, hard work, respect for others, respect for the other. Go to church. There was no such thing about, Daddy, I'm not going to church today. Daddy, I have to study today. I can never forget, I was in 6th form college. And I was being influenced by friends. Now, my sister Mabel was always my cushion. So I was being influenced by friends, and friends at that time not interested in church. So I'm in 6th form college. So I decided one day, I don't even remember, there's warehouse and there was night box. So I used to line with people like, I can call their names, I wouldn't mind, Errol Emmanuel, Russell Greenaway, Davidson Burton, Rohan Joseph, those people there, and we'll be lining. And one day I decided, you know what, I'm going to party till next day and go home after the time to go to church. So when I take the little road, coming up Monbus, I see the car is gone. I said, good, I had a Peugeot at the time. I said, good, I'm not going to church today. When I opened the door, here was my father standing. And he just turned around and said, to church. So I had to go to church without babe, without change, straight and walk down. And he drove, and I had to walk to the cathedral to church that Sunday morning. Because as far as he was concerned, it's not that compulsory to go to church. God had been good to us. And if we could find time to go to work on Monday morning, we could find time for other things, we had to find time for God. In our family, every 5:30, we had to get up, kneel around my parents' bed, and pray our devotions. Every morning growing up, and sometimes after, we have to walk to church and walk back. In those days, Mass was at 5:30, 6 o'clock. After Hurricane David, Mass in the cathedral moved to 6 o'clock. So Mass at 5:30. So we had to get up. And when my mother wake us up, there was no such thing about I don't feel to get up. When my mother touched it, everybody had to get up, brush their teeth, go to church, nothing about coffee or tea before church. All go to church and sit together. Nobody sit on the back. And my father would never sit. We all had to sit at the front. And we all had to sit as a family and then come back home for breakfast and sit around. We used to call our dining table the conference table. Nobody taking their plate and go and watch TV or go on. Everybody has to sit around the table and have dinner together, lunch together, breakfast. There was no such thing as I don't feel to. And what is on the plate? There's no such thing about I'm not eating milk or I'm not eating this. No, what's on the plate is what you have to eat. What my mother cooked is what we had to eat. So there's no such thing about I don't want this and I don't feel. No, we have to eat it.
So different.
So that is why all of us in my whole family, there's nothing nobody doesn't eat. And we enjoy the times of celebration. Macaroni and cheese wasn't an everyday thing. Baked chicken was an everyday thing. It was a special occasion time. And so that's how we grew up. So those sorts of the values, I think, many values.
Many, I can tell.
I thank God for my parents. My sister Margaret is one to say that I was a rude child. But I wasn't a rude child, I was a bold child. Because I would often challenge my father very much. But I have fond memories of my father, and what he instilled. One of the wonderful memories I have of my father is when we used to go fishing. That was his favorite pastime. Dominoes, his little rum, and fishing, and drafts. My father would never go to a carnival show, never go. His free time was playing dominoes with friends, John Thomas and Rupert Joseph and those people there, Mr. Charles and so, play dominoes or drafts. He taught all of us to play drafts. My sister Dorothy seems to be the one who has fallen in love with drafts. And then fishing, and occasionally his little rum. Okay? So we would go to, every Saturday afternoon, I'd follow my father and go fishing. And that was my bonding time.
With him.
We ate, we had lunch, whatever, and then I knew I had to get the fishing bag, pack the throw net in the car, get the coconut, go and buy the bread because we used to trade, and that was it. So it would be Canefield River, Lai River, or those, and sit down with my father throwing net. When he would throw the net, I had to pick up the fish and put it in the bag. Go home, my mother would clean it until I learned to clean it. There's a stage where so I'd reached still two things that I graduated into: my cleaning fish and baking bread.
Baking bread. So you bake bread. Do you still do it?
No, but we baked our own bread. We hardly bought bread. Buying bread, but every Saturday we had to bake bread and gateau. That was a tradition. And my mother would make the cake, and then it started with my sister, then my brother Paolo. But then when they went out, I was the last boy home, so I had to be the one to knit the bread on Saturday. That's how I began my induction into baking.
Simeon, I mean, your story is so incredible. I mean, just hearing about your parents, your brothers, the values your parents taught you, the things that you were taught at such an early age. I mean, it's just really, really, really all incredible. Let us talk a bit about your education. Already after 9.
My God.
Yes, don't worry. We're good, Simeon. We're good. Let us talk about Simeon's education.
Okay, what do you want to know?
Where did you start? Where did it
start? Well, I started preschool in Miss George's School in Calavishi. And then in 1966, my parents moved to town.
I wanted to ask you about the movement,
yes,
but here it
my parents moved to town because when at some stage, my father would be in Rosal working and having to leave his family and stay in various places in town. Okay? So in 1966, when he received his full appointment as local government commissioner, the first local government commissioner in Dominica, he decided that it was not good that my mother would have 10 children in Kalibishi, and he being in Roseau. Although one thing my father always did, he always made sure that my mother had assistance. So he always had people working with us, okay? Taking care of us and assisting my mother. So then he decided that, and not only that, he felt that the environment of the village of Kalibishi, he needed to extract his children from it because of the negativity. He felt that there was perhaps too much jealousy, the mindset, conversations, etc. So he decided, well, okay, I'm taking my children to Roseau. When I came to town, I went to Miss Winston School, Camille Winston School, which was on Jupini Lane. And then I subsequently went to the Goodwill Secondary School under the tutelage of people like Georgiana Liebert, Celia Nicholas, and Pamela Giraud, and these people. And then to the Rosa Boys School. What happened when after they constructed the new Rosa Boys School, where the Rosa Health Center is All Saints University is now. One day we went to Goodwill School, and when we went in the morning, we were just told to report to Rosa Boys School in the afternoon. No consultation with parents, no PTA meeting. You cannot do that today. And that happened in 1973, 74. We were just told you have to move to, so we had to go home and we would report to in the afternoon. So went to Rosa Boys School and started primary school there. And my teachers would be like Arthur Smith, Cecilia Nicholas, Iselin Teague, Lufa Martin, Miss Prince. Yes, Lufa taught me. A very excellent teacher, science and then Miss James. And these were my teachers. Muriel Christian, the wife of H.L. Christian. These are my teachers. And the US course. It so happened that I stayed there until I passed common entrance. Now, I would like to say, Fidina, that to me, the journey to secondary school was a bit rough because with the first time a group of us sat common entrance, we did not, in those days, they had the supplementary list. So I made it onto the supplementary list. And then the next year, my father said, no, you're not going to high school with that. Even if you can go, you're not going to high school with that. So a group of us, and it so happened, in that class were a set of students with very strict parents. Conrad Linton, his father was Meshach Linton. We had Judy Sims, we had Alexander Johnson, we had Clifton Johnson, and this. So it so happened that in that class, the parents decided, no, you're not. So we stayed back in Rosa Boys School for another year. Only to find out that when we started the second year, we were given a form teacher. And that form teacher entered that class one day and read a poem called King Bruce of Scotland. And the gentleman read the poem once, he read it twice, he asked us to read it 3 times, and he asked us to write it down on a piece of paper. And then he asked us, what is that poem about? None of us could unravel what that poem was about. The gentleman stood out the window for the entire day without teaching us and telling us, asking us, tell him what the poem was about. The bell rang, we went home, nobody got it. The next day, the Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, they say 4 days, that teacher came into the class, did not teach anything, and he told us, unless you understand what this poem is about, I will not begin to teach. So he would stand by the door, he would question us, he'd let us read the poem, he'd let us go through that. Until the Thursday, just before break, he asked the question, do you all know what the poem is about? And then one of the students in the class, Conrad, said, yes, try and you'll succeed. And then yes.
And that was it?
And that was it. Try and you'll succeed. And he said, yes, you only succeed in life when you try. That teacher was Lennox Linton.
Are you kidding
in my
me?
common entrance class. Yes, that teacher was Lennox Linton in my common entrance class. And he was young.
Do you remember that?
Young, definitely. Because he had an impression on me, on all of us, in the sense that he demanded of us that, and then he asked us to write poems, short stories, plays, and even songs on try and you'll succeed in life. And that's good. So next year, all of us passed common entrance. Some went to SME, I went to the grammar school. I was at grammar school. After Hurricane David, I went to Guadeloupe for schooling because schools were destroyed. I stayed at the Mayor of Capistaire, and then I came back and graduated in grammar school, from grammar school.
Yes, but you're not telling us the most important part. You were valedictorian.
Oh yes.
Oh my goodness.
Well,
I'm student of the year.
Yeah,
It's a good thing I read my notes. You would have left that out.
As student of the year of the Dominican Republic. That was an honor for me. I was quite surprised, yes.
Because you first had common entrance and you won the supplementary list.
Right.
Then you go again, you pass, and then 5 years later you are valedictorian.
Yes, and I must say thank you to some of my teachers like Winsome LeBlanc, Josephine Josephs, Myrna Harris, the other Mrs. Harris, Anthony Lockhart, Melbo Phillip, Mikey Bruni, Sonia Akpa, Davis Slater. These were my teachers in grammar school who, Alwyn Bully. These were the teachers, Ophelia Marie. These were the teachers.
Ophelia was a teacher.
Yes, and I'll give you a story about Ophelia.
Remember she said that.
Ophelia came to us, and I was in second form, and Ophelia said, I want you in the choir because you are Joseph, and Joseph's supposed to be in choir. No, I didn't want to be in choir. Now, in those days in secondary school, as a young boy growing up, choir is for girls, and you're intimidated by your other friends because you're in choir. And when they say in choir, they say all sorts of things. So I was in choir. During that time, Orlin Bully had left and become the first chief cultural officer at Old Mill, and so there were performances. Ophelia had us walk from grammar school to Old Mill and Old Mill to grammar school back to perform, because in those days there were no buses. So we had a good time. We had a very good time.
Did you all walk in a line?
Singing, walking to Old Mill, performing, and then walking back home under the cliff. And we performed. I was the main performer in a song called Panama Muerto Bay. Yes. So I had to roll up, and then you know what our uniform was? Our uniform was the grammar school khaki pants and the white sports t-shirt. That was our uniform.
The short pants or the long pants?
The long pants.
They are moved on to long pants right now.
Yes. Panama, and that was it. And then that's it. And then I moved on to.
You remember anything about a few lines of the Panama?
Panama Muerto Bay, Panama Muerto Bay. Panama Muerto Bay, Sakide, Wamase Pumwe.
That one brought back a little memory. Very, very nice.
Yes.
So that was part of the grammar school experience.
The grammar school experience, which was a rich experience.
Yes. It's interesting that you all walked.
Yeah.
Ophelia, good evening to you, my darling. I know you're listening. I know she has to be listening.
Yeah.
So you saying she made you all walk?
Yeah, not she made us. We had no choice.
You had no choice.
There were no buses.
And you wanted to perform.
There was no opportunities. And Alwyn Bully was principal of grammar school during that year. He left during that year to assume, and then we were in the school choir. And Ophelia was a charming teacher. Ophelia was you could not tell Ophelia no as a teacher. You could not. She had us practicing at that time down in the technical wing. That's where we were practicing. And we could not, anything Ophelia would ask us to do, we would do. And so we enjoyed the walk. Singing, going down to Old Mill, and singing coming back. And it was fun time.
It was fun
time, quiet, yeah.
Just to go back to the point of the valedictorian. So you were valedictorian, and was there also a student of the year?
At that time it was
different?
It was one. Valedictorian student of the year.
Valedictorian student of the year. And you attained that.
Yes, because I decided from fifth form onwards, get serious. Work hard. But something spurred me on. In 1980, the Freedom Party came to power, and they victimized my family a lot. My father, my mother, my sisters, my brother.
So were you all Laborites?
Oh, definitely Laborites. Porto Laborites. Born in the Labour Party. In Porto Laborite, and that is it. And so when the Freedom Party came in, my father was denied his pension and his gratuity for 3 years. He was arrested for several counts of many things. My mother, my brother, my sisters. And so we were hounded by Freedomites. My sister Florence had returned from England, the first person in Dominica to graduate in orthopedics. When she came to Dominica, they did not want to appoint her as a nurse. They wanted to put her as a ward aide. My sister Annie was victimized, my brother Paolo was victimized, my mother, my sister Memo was victimized, and all of those things. And so I saw the struggle in my family. As a matter of fact, in fourth form, it was my brother Jefferson who had to sponsor my education. Because my father at the time was denied his salary, my sister Florence in England sent the money to pay for at that time we were the first students to do CXC and the GC. So my sister Florence encouraged, so these two people encouraged me. And so I decided, you know what, work hard. So go to grammar school, and we had study nights and study, go on Saturday morning. We had study groups with Billy Sandy and Russell Greenaway and Errol and Errol Emmanuel and Atherton Nesty and these people. And we studied, and teachers would come at night, and I decided, you know something, I'm going to get involved. I got involved in debating for grammar school, athletics for grammar school, music for grammar school, student council, yes, running and long jump, athletics for grammar school, volleyball, student council. The student council in grammar school started selling the soft drinks. That was the project that the student council started. People like Hilarion Jules as well, Telford Chiliford, Irving Guy, Dominica's fastest runner. So we got deeply involved in school, and I realized that one person said to me, that was Josephine Josephs, in fourth form she was the principal of grammar school after Hubert Charles left and became permanent secretary. And she said, let me tell you something, I know your father, I know your mother, your father doesn't play. Okay, so that is it. The way Assembly Black came on the scene, Carol Severin, Nicholas Goldberg, these were the teachers who just, and this was a breed of teachers, Vania Jones, this was a breed of teachers who were serious and dedicated. And so when you entered the class, you had to work hard. So much so that once I excelled in an English composition, and when Assembly Black had me to go and read that essay to all the fifth forms, and then I debated for grammar school on several occasions, etc. And I think by then my mind began to open up. I was inspired by people like Afi Martin, Para Rive, and Gabriel Christian, and these people. So I began reading. I began watching documentaries. Anthony Larond became our history teacher, and he was a very revolutionary person, so it opened up our minds. At that time, I was very much involved in the Labour Youth Organization with Patrick John. I was a fierce person in politics and those things, very much involved in National Youth Council and Labour Youth Organization. So, fourth and fifth form for me was that time in my life where I just spread my wings. But the spreading of my wings in various things opened up my mind. And I found I could learn much better. And so I decided I'm going to work hard. I was not going to fail my father because I knew he was suffering. I was not going to disappoint my parents and my mother because I knew they were making the sacrifice. And from fourth form, I decided it was going to be that for me. So then it was study, work. I still had to do my weekend chores. I still had to wash car. I still had to go fishing with my father. I still had to do the baking. I still had to do this. I still had to do everything. As a matter of fact, as president of the Student Council in Grammar School, I got a detention because of the fact that I had to debate one afternoon, and because I had to bake bread, I was late, so I couldn't show up, and I was put on detention. I told my father said, no, you have to learn to balance everything and do what you have to do. Don't come to me. You know you had everything to do, so you knew what you had to do. You had to do everything and still debate for school. That was it. You understand?
And you can say nothing.
I can say nothing.
Yeah.
And I learned my lesson.
Yeah.
You have to do life in balance. You have to organize yourself. You have to do time management. You have to do those things. And so that's it. And then coming to the end, I must say I had good encouragement from Anthony Locker, the principal of grammar school. He called me once and he challenged me in his office. And then I went to him, and then I think we formed that, and his wife too, we formed that alliance of principal, because I was in the student council then. And then lo and behold, at graduation, I was very happy with my results. And then he called me to his office and said, you have been selected as student of the year and valedictorian. And I was very happy. I gave the valedictory speech, and that was it. One of the things that touched me at that graduation, well, not touched me, is that led me realize that I have to succeed in life is at the end of my graduation speech, Ozzy Savre was the chairperson. Ozzy Savre said something very strange when I was through. He said, this is just a small bit of Simeon Joseph, and I'm sure you will hear much more of Simeon Joseph in years to come. That stayed with me. And I said, you know something? I can't disappoint my family. I can't disappoint my alma mater. I can't disappoint, and I moved on from there. And that's putting me the need for excellence more than ever. You don't realize people are expecting things from you. And so when people are expecting things from you, you have a responsibility and an obligation not to disappoint.
What qualified you to be selected as the valedictorian? Was it a combination of
academics and school spirit and discipline?
Okay.
These were the three things.
And you had all of
them. Yeah, my graduation.
Except for your one detention.
Yeah. Yes. I still have my graduation certificate.
You do?
Yeah.
Yes. These are things that we have to cherish and
yes,
secure.
Yes.
And I hope they're laminated.
Yes.
Yes.
As a matter of fact, yes. Yeah.
Please ensure that they are laminated.
Yes.
So Simeon, we have still so much more to talk about. But after your that level of education and you graduated from the grammar school, there is one element of your life that I really want to talk about, and that was the journey to the priesthood. And we're coming to that in a while, because I'm sure a lot of people really want to know, what is the real story
I'm
there.
sure, yes.
But in terms of once you were completed with school, what was the next move?
I went to Sixth Form College.
Sixth Form College.
I did economics and French and history. And while there, I was called out to do a short stint of teaching, and then from there, I moved on to the bank. To the bank, Aid Bank, where I did my longest stint of work. But from fourth form to Aid Bank in grammar school, I was going through a discernment process at the pastoral center with Sister Elsa and Father Huysmans. As well, my mother was the one who I'm thinking. And the simple reason was that when I was in fourth form, I had stepped out of the Catholic Church.
Oh.
For two reasons. In grammar school, there was a strong influence of prayer from some of my schoolmates. Lloyd Pascal, Gloria Augustine, now Gloria Joseph, Permanent Secretary, Nella Rudette, Kenry Jajak, now the Chief Fire Officer, Achille Joseph. We formed the prayer group in grammar school. I was the only Catholic. And so the evangelicals inspired me to pray and singing and worship, which was much more lively than the Catholic Church. So I was attracted to the Pentecostal church because I went to a crusade. I used to sneak out every night. Because in my father's house, I dare not have gone to anywhere outside of the Catholic. So I would pretend I'm going to sleep very early and then sneak out through the back and go to the crusade. So while I think I got a certain conviction, because while I was brought up rooted in prayer, I think I needed more in my spirituality. So my mother and my sister Mima felt that. So my sister Mima came to me and she said, Simeon, do you want to break up this family? I said, what do you mean? Do you know when you leave and go, it means therefore that we can worship together. There are lots of things that we can do together. I said, okay. So then my mother said, okay, fine. My mother called Sister Elsa, and I began to be invited to the pastoral center. Lauren Pear, Rosie Rule, Ernestine Theophile, a whole set of us, Tony John, a whole set of us, and we began the discernment process of finding our vocation in life.
But when you speak about discernment, help us understand what you mean.
Introduction to the whole idea of religious life and the priesthood. Okay. So we get talks on Saturday morning. Sister Donatin, Father Huysmans, who again, Father Charles, and a few of the other nuns, and etc., Brother German, etc. So we'd be spoken to about the Catholic Church, the priesthood, the nunnery, the brotherhood, etc. And at some point in my life, I wanted more. So I was at the Aid Bank at the time working. And by the way, do you know that when I started working at the Aid Bank, some top person in the Freedom Party actually called and asked what was I doing at the Aid Bank. That was the level of Freedom Party victimization. Even when I was chosen valedictorian, the then Minister of Education called the principal of grammar school and asked why was the son of Sylvester Joseph chosen to be valedictorian at grammar school. Yes, so that's those things happened in those days. So then I was there in the Aid Bank working, and then at some point on my 21st birthday, I decided, I'm going to have a mass for my 21st birthday. And Father Charles Vermeulen was the local provincial. And after my 21st birthday, he invited me to the presbytery to think very seriously about the priesthood. He gave me books to read, becoming a priest. I read all of that, and then I said yes to the response to begin the formation with the Redemptorist congregation. You understand? So, and then what cemented it for me, in the 17th of July 1984, Father Glanville Joseph and Father Franklin Coffey were ordained, and I was there. And that is what was my metaphysical experience of transcending from thinking about it to actually saying, yes, that's where I want to be. I love to see the community life. I love to see the prayer life. I love to see the fact that, and not only that, Father Huysmans at the time gave a very good, overview of missionary life, because I was a very socially action-oriented person, okay? A very justice-seeking person, and I love the idea. And then I read the life of St. Alphonsus Liguori, who was a priest, a diocesan priest, who became a Redemptorist because he wanted to help the poor, and I was very much involved in doing that. So then I went up to Ireland. I studied philosophy.
For how long?
For 2.5 years.
2.5 years.
And then
First step?
First step. And while there, I did a lot of other studies. So I went to Spain, Santander, and I studied Spanish, Italian, German, and Greek.
How much of that can you still speak?
Quite a lot.
Really?
Hablo español, je parle français, and the rest goes on and on.
All right, nice.
And then, although these are sentences anybody would say, but I'm quite fluent in French, actually quite fluent in Spanish, Greek, mainly for biblical purposes. Italian, I've been to Italy a few times. As a matter of fact, when I went to Rome in 1996 to make a presentation to the John Paul II, I did it in Italian. My presentation was in Italian to John Paul II. I think I sent you the photographs.
Yes, yes.
So then, that's it. And then...
so you met Pope John Paul?
Yes.
You made a presentation to
Yes, I was the representative of the students of the Theology of Life who had to make a presentation to John Paul II in Rome in 1996.
Oh my God.
Yes, in 10th of May 1996. That was a moment for me. And so my studies took me to a lot of other places. I came back home. At that point, I must say, while in Ireland, I experienced a lot of racism, a lot of indifference. One of the things that I was highly tolerant of was, I remember when I went, they told me I had to study English. I said, I'm not going to any English class. I have a 1 in CXC English, and I have an A in GC. I'm not going to do any English. They're looking at me, the rector said, well, the others who came before me had to do English. I said, but I'm not doing any English, and I defied him to the bone, to the T. I'm not doing any English. Apart from other things, it's the fact that they wanted to show me how, there was a lot of racism. Let's put it that way. Now we're going back to the 80s.
Yes.
And then it was unbearable for me because for some reason or the other, and then not only that, a lot of the, the reality, the information that you receive, the reality is different. The prayer life was good, the mission. Because I must say, while there, I was able to do a lot. I was able to go to Taizé. I went to India for 2 weeks to work with Mother Teresa of Calcutta. I went to the Philippines as well to work in some of the poor areas there in the Philippines. And
you've traveled.
Yes, I've traveled.
And have had some interesting experiences.
Yes, some interesting experiences. As a matter of fact, when I went to Spain, I was almost killed. When I landed in Spain, I took the train from Madrid to Santander. When I landed on the platform, 3 gentlemen came up to me and asked me where I'm going. I said, I'm going, and I gave them the address. So they asked me to come with them. And when I went with them, I realized we were going to somewhere that didn't look like where. And they brought me into an apartment, and they pulled out a knife. And they held a knife to my chest, and they said, we don't want any Africans here. You all Africans come, we don't want any Africans there. Santander is not for Africans. And this was in a room, I did not know where I was. So the little Spanish that I learned at the time before going, because I had to prepare, I said, I'm not coming to work. Estoy estudiante. They asked me, estudiante para qué? I said, para sacerdote. And then I took out my cross that I was wearing, my Redemptorist cross. and then they withdrew. They knelt down in front of me and they begged pardon.
Are you kidding?
Yes, they knelt down in front of me and they begged pardon. And they said, forgive them, but the fact is they were seeing too many Africans. So, and they took me in the car and then they brought me to the
where you had to go.
House where I had to go. And do you know that for the 2 months that I was in Santander, they came to church often. They met with me. We prayed together and everything like that.
Oh,
I was corresponding to one of them up till about 10 years ago in Spain. So, you know, that is the experience I've had. But one of the reasons why I had to do those journeys is because in 1986 it was expensive to come home. And it was as I expected that you come home before you finish studies. So I had Christmas, Easter and summer. What do? The other seminaries were going to their homes. And so what I did, because I developed a network, one of the students who had worked with Mother Teresa in Calcutta, Michael Keller, came back and he made a connection to me. So that's how I went to work with Mother Teresa for 2 years in Calcutta, India. And then there was a priest, Father McGovern at the time, who had taken on to me. He was my spiritual director. And he said, you know what, I've been to the Philippines, I would like you to go to the Philippines, and he went to the Philippines. No, there are times when, other times I went to Poland, Austria, Germany, the Scandinavian countries, Belgium, Luxembourg, Portugal, and those places, just to widen my experience of, I love history. And so I would do that instead. It was cheaper than coming home. My sister Florence in England, of course, was always my stopover at the time. And then it was a wonderful experience. You understand? So then from there, I came back to Dominica. I left the Redemptorist.
You left?
I left the Redemptorist. And it was separation.
Okay.
Because when I came back home and I asked to come back home, things did not go too well.
Okay.
I fell out a lot with the then superior, not
in
Father
Dominica?
in Dominica.
Uh-huh.
And then I was told to take 2 years break before I continued back.
So, I mean, like what happened?
Oh, what happened at the time was, the discernment process is one whereby you have to go through certain stages. They said I was anti-community. I was stubborn. In the sense that I was anti-community, I did not know how to respect authority, I did my own thing, etc.
Was it true, Simeon?
To some extent.
To some extent.
You don't, I'm the kind of person you don't wrap me around your finger. And the mentality was you're a seminary. So certain things, you understand? And I began to call myself the least of the apostles, and they didn't like that.
Oh boy.
Because of the fact that because I was a junior seminarian, I was given all the meaning. So some things like when the retreat house was being established, I was asked to sandpaper all the beds for spraying for the retreat house and those kind of things there. And then once I had an accident, I had my British license, and then Father Mark was going back to Ireland to finish his studies at the time, so he left the keys with me. And then that particular time I just decided I'm going to my home at Montrose to come back down, and on the way down I had an accident.
Oh.
Father Charles was very upset and he said, I wash my hands of you, I want to have nothing to do with you anymore.
Oh my God.
And then it was hurtful, but then I said, well, okay, fine. I called in my parents, and they told my parents that that was it with me and the Redemptorists.
Okay.
But I still stayed in the church. And
But-
then, yeah, go
A
ahead.
quick question.
Mhm.
So, but isn't that all part of the discernment process?
Yes, of
Is
course.
to determine whether
Of
or
course,
not
of course.
you want to
Of course,
continue.
of course. But I had made up my mind that I did not want to be a Redemptorist anymore.
Okay.
The Redemptorists, while their mission might be missionary, I came from a family that was close-knit.
Okay.
And I'll tell you straight, the community that was promised was not delivered.
Okay.
They didn't get that brotherhood, that togetherness, that support. And I figured, and not only that, I had become very closely associated to Father Elvio, who was a diocesan seminary.
I see.
And Father Elvio and I became very close. And so I gravitated during that period of time from Redemptorist to diocesan. So then I went to Trinidad to do my theology.
Okay. So wait. So the idea was still there
Oh
then?
yes,
Towards
yes.
the priesthood.
Because of the fact that my spiritual director at the time, Father Huysmans, told me, because I was very close, Father Huysmans was a family member of mine, And I remained close writing to some priests, especially in England, when I was doing my communication studies in England, because I did my and Hatchet, the Catholics. So the director there was still a very close friend of mine. He really allowed me to develop myself. So through the process of, and then, so Father LVO, how you call it? Father LVO, Father Joe, priest like Father Brennan was another priest who was, so the discernment process continued. And then Father Brennan came to me and he said, why don't you consider the diocesan priesthood?
Right.
And then I spoke to Father Elvio. I spoke to Father John Lewis at the time, and then encouraged me to pursue. The Bishop Bogart received me, and then I was sent off to Trinidad to start my theology. So I did my degree in theology and counseling and pastoral care. So I did a double degree and pastoral care.
So you're a counselor?
Yes, I'm a trained counselor, just not certified. Yeah, because I started, theology was a pure subject, but then Sister Katrina Charles, because she saw that I was so good in pastoral care and counseling, she said, why don't you do that, licensate in pastoral care? And so I did it. And that's how I got that. I graduated, came back home. And when I came back home, I was ordained as to lector and acolyte, installed at the cathedral as lector and acolyte.
Explain lector.
Lector and acolyte is when you are given the ministries to read the word and to serve on the altar.
Okay.
It's the first step before diaconate, and then the next step is priesthood.
I see.
So that is it. I was received as lector and acolyte, and then I came home, and then I went back and finished my degree in theology. So I finished my degree in theology, and then I came back home. And when I came back home,
you have me intrigued, eh? I hope you see that.
Yeah. Okay. So when I came back home, I went to see Bishop Bogart, and then we spoke at some length about matters. And he said, "Well, okay, fine. Academics, you're okay. Emotionally, you're okay. Community-wise, you're okay, and everything. But I have doubts."
The bishop said he had doubts,
I have doubts
about you.
He said I have doubts, So, and he said there are some people in the seminary who have doubts as well. I said, okay, fine. What are the doubts? He's not going to tell me. So I just walked away from his office.
And that was it?
That was it.
That was it?
Yeah. So, but I went to Father John Lewis, and Father John Lewis told me, give it some time. Take 5 years, and then come back. Yeah, give yourself 5 years and then come back. And then that has been it, because what happened was...
So 5 years turned into...
Nothing.
All right.
And then, although people have made many stories about that, which to my mind, I am flabbergasted to see how people can say things and where it came from, I don't know.
One of the things I heard was that Simeon was kicked out of the church or out of the priesthood. Partly because some of what you said earlier on in terms of you being a little stubborn and that along those lines.
Along those lines, yes. Yeah, but people have said many things, but I know the truth. I know my report.
Well, you're saying the truth?
Yeah, and this is what happened. And then, but you see, again too, how to put it that way, my relationship with Bishop Bogart began to deteriorate in my last year.
Okay.
I remember telling him off at the retreat house in Arima in Trinidad, because he would come to Trinidad for bishops' conferences and would not come to see me. The only seminarian would not come to see me. You understand what I'm saying? I would come to Dominica and I would have to go to see him. He won't. And then
is it supposed to be the other way around?
But I mean, he's the bishop.
You
ask your seminarian how he's doing. You come to Trinidad, you come to find out how he's doing. Okay. I would write, and then a letter would come to me. I did not value that or appreciate it. Anyway, I spoke to other priests, and they told me when they were in the seminary, that's how it was with them as well. But there was one year when I went to St. Martin. I was asked by the Bishop of St. Martin to go and conduct the Lourdes retreat in St. Martin. So I went to preach for 9 days in St. Martin, and he said I went without his permission. So he wrote me a long letter. Now the point is, they had told me they had written to him, which they did. But he did not tell me I could go. So I assumed that from Trinidad I could fly straight to St. Martin. And he did not agree to that.
So that was a problem.
That was a problem. Bishop Bogart, bless his soul, and the person that he was. Put it that way, we could have had a better relationship. And so, but that does not mean that I was never kicked out of the church. You know,
but you heard that as well,
it
right?
has hurt me,
Yes.
to a very large extent when I hear that. Up to the other day, there was a gentleman on Kyrie FM running his mouth about that, which is strange to me. After a certain funeral, I have heard that. My friends have confronted me about that. But in life, people always try to wonder why things happen to you without asking you. You understand what I'm saying? And so it's very sad when people do those things. I'm still devoted and dedicated to the church. I'm very much involved in the church. I serve in several capacities in the church.
You do.
I have even been asked to become a deacon.
Yes.
I saw
that correspondence.
Yes.
He's not lying.
I was asked by Bishop Marza in 2006 to reconsider the priesthood. And so I have just decided that you don't have to be on the altar to serve. I'm in the choir, I'm on pastoral council, I'm on many things already in the church. So that's how it is. Basically, that is it. And then if you talk about my education, after theology, I went on to Jamaica.
Pause a bit. Somebody's saying, but to think about it, Simeon would be a hell of a parish priest there, not Jesus.
I've been told that many times.
I think you would.
I have been told that many times. I've been told that by priests. I've been told that by Bishop Marza. I've been told that by Bishop Gilbert. Bishop Gilbert once called me and said, why don't you reconsider? Come back. But at that time, when Bishop Gilbert was there, when I could have considered it, I was going to Switzerland. And I was going to work at the World Conference of Churches. To me, at that stage, I wanted to, because what I was being called to do in Switzerland was very much what I'm interested in, where my passion lies. And so I went there. So then that was it. And then Bishop Gilbert left. I was also asked by the Bishop of Mandeville, Jamaica, to join the diocese in Jamaica. But I've always said, I'm a Dominican to the bone. I love my country. I love my local church. If I am to serve, it's not going to be anywhere, you know. Bishop Dixon from Barbados once asked me at the Dominicans, so why don't I join them, you know? So that people have told me that often, and for the time being, you never know where.
But is it out the door completely?
I wouldn't
right
say so.
now?
Certainly not. I wouldn't say so. I still have that passion to serve, to serve the church. I see the need in the church for priests and pastors and leadership in the church. Nothing is going to take me away from the Catholic Church. I know the ins and outs of the Catholic Church. I also know the ins and outs of other churches that are not Catholic, and it's no different. Sometimes it could even be worse. But your faith, as a matter of fact, when I left the priesthood, my father told me one thing. This is what he told me. Listen, God is bigger than any pope, any priest, any bishop. Never turn your back on God. And he said, you don't have to be a priest, but remain a child of God. That was my father's words to me, and that was it. I was never judged. I was never condemned. I was never thin. I went to Calabishi. When I went to Calabishi, Father Mark invited me to be the youth coordinator. I started as a youth coordinator, parish youth coordinator. I worked in the area as parish youth coordinator. Father Joe wanted me to be a lay minister. I said, no, I'll work with the youth in choir, in music, in every area, and that would be it for me. And so that's where I have become still in the church, still involved in the church.
Still involved.
Still involved, not going anywhere.
I'm happy, Simeon, that you've actually sort of clarified, this journey that you went on, that many have had their own thoughts about, spread their rumors about, and, had whatever they had to say as it pertained to that. But I believe what you shared with us
But I will
tonight,
tell you something.
Yes.
I have come to understand that what has been disseminated was started by a priest. I'll tell you, the worst lie about me has been told by a priest. The greatest embarrassment I have received is from a nun. Now, I'm saying that to say, not to condemn, but that to realize that even within the church you have frailty. Even within the church and the cloth, the human nature, human nature comes in. And so the important thing is to forgive. To forgive. I know that was started by a priest. I know the priest, as a matter of fact. I have never told that priest I know. I work well with that priest.
Even today?
Even today, I deal well with that priest. But there's no need for that. and that went on to a choir leader from Girardel, who went to Barbados and has been spreading that and so forth. So I know I've worked with that person, but I'm not going to hate people because of what they say about me that they don't know. You don't do that.
So you know your truth.
Yeah, I know my truth, and nobody can write my truth for me. You see, there's no need for people to know your truth if your conscience sets you free. There's a saying that goes, your reputation is made by others. Your character is made by yourself. Character supersedes reputation. In life, there will always be people who try to build your reputation, say things about you, bring you down, destroy your name, bring you to the dirt, bring you in the gutters. What will determine who you are in the midst of that is the character that you pursue. So if you are able to forgive, if you are able to walk past, if you are able to walk by, if you are able to ignore, if you are able to show people that in spite of the fact of they trying to bring you down in the gutter, you will walk in the middle of the road and allow vehicles to knock you down instead of going into the gutter, will be the strength of your true character. So you smile with them. And that's what I've had to do. Many people have attacked me. Politicians, priests, church people, everybody, people, my co-workers, and that's how I do. I will be who I am because the character that I embody tells me hate is wrong, gossip is wrong, malice is wrong, revenge is wrong. These things imprison you. What frees you is to let go, forgive, walk away, pretend you don't even know. So then I can watch my worst enemy in the face, shake their hand and smile to them, and they wouldn't know I know they're my enemy. That's me.
They wouldn't know
and
you.
I can work with my worst enemy. When I was at grammar school, people used to tell me, but I don't understand how you work in some other civil. I said, let me tell you something. They can talk about me if they want, right? But my father didn't leave grammar school as my estate. And if my worst enemy in grammar school can help me to build grammar school, I will put them in a leadership position, because what I want is not a friend. I want competence, I want excellence, and I want hard work. So if my worst enemy works hard, is competent, and strive after excellence, I will put them in a position to bring things forward. That's how I am.
That's it.
That's it.
That's it.
Because at the end of the day, don't come to my home. I wouldn't go to Fortune and dine with them and drink with them, because I know they're not friends. And that's why I developed that saying, cheers to those who wish me well, and F those who don't.
Yes.
Because in life, there'll be people who wish you well. In life, there'll be people who are for you. You don't need 20 friends. You don't need 30 friends. All you need is a good support network. There will always be people who wish you well. F those who don't, because they don't matter.
They don't matter.
No, they don't matter.
They don't matter.
And if tomorrow you get a chance to help them, do so.
Do so.
Do so, because there's a God above. And as my father used to say, never allow anybody to let you lose your salvation. Because when when enemies attack you and they try to bring you down, okay? When you go and do likewise, you are robbing yourself of your salvation. Because you are being like them. You have to be better than them. You have to be above them. You have to be beyond them. Show people that you're not who they are. And in the meantime, you're free. You know the amount of people who walk around sorrowful and bitter because of what people see, what people do to them, and then they're unhappy and they're judging everybody and are suspicious of everybody and those kind of... No, you don't do that in life. In life, you will have good, you will have bad, you will have ups, you will have downs. Don't dwell on the negative. Don't dwell on the bad. And if tomorrow your worst enemy calls you to help them, do it. Help them and walk away. You don't have to be their friend. You don't have to say, let's go and have celebrate. No, your worst, you do it. And that's who I am.
Powerful.
That's why I am.
Very, very powerful. Before we move on from that, I wanted you to just mention about the experience with Mother Teresa.
Oh, yes.
Yes, please.
Well, so Michael Kelleher was a senior student to me in Ireland. He had gone to Taizé with Brother Roger and eventually to Mother Teresa in Calcutta. So one Easter 1985, it was, I had nowhere to go to, because the previous Easter I was in Belfast, and that's where again I was almost beaten, because I was working at Clonard Monastery, and while there I was asked to go to deposit money into the credit union down the road. Now, unknowing to me, I didn't know at the time that there was the Protestant side and there was the Catholic side, so I decided to walk down this road. Ireland at that time was very Protestant or Catholic. So on my way down, I, of course, had my cross in my hand. So then there were some Protestants and they approached me and said, "What are you doing here? Catholics are not supposed to." And they were going to pick up stones. So I turned around and I said, "What is this about?" And they asked me, "What part?" "Where I'm from." I said, "I'm from the Caribbean." And they said, "Jamaica, Bob Marley." And I started singing all the Bob Marley songs with them. You understand what I'm telling you? And they said, "Hey man, how you doing, man?" And I said, "No, West Indian people don't say man, man, man. That's for black Americans." They asked me if I can be. And I started singing to them, "Don't worry about a thing," that kind of thing. And that's how I was able to disperse myself. So the next year, I raised really on what am I going to do during that Easter sojourn. So then Michael said, "Why don't you come to Taizé with me?" Actually, Michael is now the Redemptorist Superior in Ireland. So then, why don't you go to Taizé with me? And I said, "Okay, sure, fine, let's go to Taizé." And it was a wonderful experience. So I went to Taizé. I spent a week in Taizé with Brother Roger and the Taizé community. And then while there, they were asking people to sign up to go to Mother Teresa in Calcutta, because Mother Teresa and Brother Roger were like that. Now, why that was happening is that at that time, there was supposed to be some Philippines who were supposed to go to India, Philippine Redemptorist brothers. But the presidents, Marcos had just fallen, and Aquino was had just assumed leadership in the Philippines. So the Philippine seminarians could not go to India. So they had sent a message that if there are any seminarians who are willing to come and do 2 months. So I signed up. So from Taizé, I flew over to India. Taizé is in France, to Mother Teresa, and we spent 2 years there. And to me, that was one of the most harrowing babies being left on the doorsteps, abandoned. People with AIDS being rejected by their parents. Poor people with nothing to eat. And for the 2 weeks of my life, I felt guilty even eating a good meal, because all around during Calcutta were the squalor of poor people, people with AIDS, people with all kinds of diseases, wives abandoned by their husbands, people of the lower caste in India, because India is a very caste society, daughters who have been basically abandoned by their parents and beaten and raped and those kind of things. So while there, it was totally voluntary in prayer and pastoral work, helping poor people and sick people. And then I flew back to Ireland at the time and continued the last term. So that's the idea of Mother Teresa.
So you met her?
I met her.
And you worked with her?
I worked with her. I would see her every day, sit down, pray, and
what's she like?
Pray. You're very humble, very simple, very short, very slim, very soft-spoken. And there's a saying that she used to say to us every day, that stayed with me: "It's all God's work. It's all God's work." And it stayed with me because whatever we're doing, always remember, whatever you do, it's all God's work.
It's all God's work.
Yeah.
Hey, it's 6 minutes to the hour of 10 o'clock, and I'm already seeing we need, just at least a few more minutes to continue our conversation with Simeon, because this is really good conversation, and this is really, really good stuff that we're having here on the In the Spotlight radio show tonight. I really do want to, just thank all of you for tuning into the program and for being here. And I just want to say good evening to Mr. Ian Jackson. And Ian Jackson, as I mentioned earlier on, and the Sun newspaper named me as the best host for 2021. Now, you can understand why, somebody like that would spend some time listening to the programs and so on. And he's listening this evening and he says to me, "Powerful guest and program. Great way to start the year." Ian Jackson, good evening to you. And like you said, when I said to you, thank you again for recognizing me, you said, "Fidina, I'm only being fair." So thank you for your fairness. And, I guess we're a good start to probably claiming 2 titles at the end of the year. But we'll see how that goes.
Yeah.
Simeon,
interesting journey.
It's been an interesting journey. I mean, I have so many photos there that, I don't even know which one to ask you about. So many different photos here. But let's talk some more. Simeon, we're continuing along the education path.
Oh, yes.
And you're well trained in many, many other areas.
Yeah.
Let's talk about
Okay, so I'll continue the journey.
Yes.
When I was through in Jamaica, I went to Jamaica to do social work. And when I was through in social work, I did my master's in social work. So I first went to do a certificate program in social work. And while there, I was invited by Dr. Lincoln Williams, the dean of the Social Welfare Training Center. He said, listen, you can go back to Dominica with a certificate, stay back and do your master's. And then he allowed me, I registered to do my master's in social work and came back.
So you have a master's in social work.
Master's
you have
in social work.
A
bachelor's in
theology.
I have a diploma in philosophy. I have a certificate diploma in linguistics. I have a diploma in ecumenism.
What is that?
Ecumenism is the study of the oneness of the church within the Christian tradition. Okay? Then I also have my diploma in events management. I have a bachelor's in events management. I also have my certificates in interior decorating, okay, leadership and management. I also have my certificate diploma in educational leadership and management from Cambridge University. So these are some of my, well, it has all been journeys, and I'm currently pursuing my master's in, and that again is a trying thing that, you know, sometimes I wonder how I'm doing it. So I'm currently pursuing my master's in human resource development, as well as a master's in creative events management, one with Salford University and the other one in Falmouth University in London.
That is a lot of knowledge that is in that head of yours, and it's not a very big head, so quite a bit of knowledge in there. Simeon, let us talk about some of the other things that you are very good at, that people respect you for. We've not spoken about some of the other jobs that you've experienced. So we spoke about aid bank. You went off to study and you did some other things, and then you came back, and then you decided against the you walked out. Was it Bogart?
Yeah.
Yes. Let's talk about what happened after that.
So what happened after that? Well, as I said, I came back, and then I was with my family in Calabasas, and then I was the youth coordinator for the parish of La Soie. But while there, I was called to work with the Caribbean Conference of Churches as the coordinator for the Theology of Life program and in the Caribbean. Following that, however, I was then asked to pursue a diploma in Theology of Life, Ecumenism and Theology of Life in Geneva, Switzerland. While there, after I was through studying, when I had to do a presentation to the body of students, when I was through doing the presentation to the body of students, I was asked by the Dean of Studies at the time to become a student coordinator. So when I became the student coordinator, it means because we studied for 3 months, and then the following 3 months had to be group work. So from October to December was full class work, but then from January onwards had to be group work. But our tutor was a Greek Orthodox priest. So he had to be journeying back and forth to Greece and back, and I was asked to lead that tutorial group.
Okay.
And while there. So it so happened that while I was leading that tutorial group at the time, and this is where a double job comes in now, I was staying at Silene. It's a castle in Silene. I was given a castle to live in. Actually, yes, I was given a castle to live in, and I lived there. And because of the fact that I had to assume the responsibility this time of being the volunteer coordinator for all the volunteers who were working at the Costa Ecumenic in Geneva, Switzerland. So there were about 30 of them. That's how I began to become involved in volunteers. Now these volunteers came from the hotel school in Lausanne in Switzerland. And I had to be coordinating their daily activities. There were volunteers from Germany, Holland, Denmark, Austria, Bosnia-Herzegovina, Italy, France, and those places. So I had to be coordinating them. While I was doing that, and also being the head tutor for the tutorial group, I had to do a presentation to the United Nations in Geneva on youth and violence. So I did a presentation there. When I was through doing the presentation, I was asked by Sam Kobia, who was the head of the World Conference of Churches at the time, to come to work at the World Conference of Churches in the Theology of Life program. And it was during that time that I became very involved in being part of the international touring group for the Theology of Life program and the program to overcome violence. That took me to, and then I was made coordinator for Sub-Saharan Africa. So then I was basically shuttling between troubled countries. So Bosnia-Herzegovina, first of all, then Rwanda. I had to travel to Rwanda. And then Haiti at one point, because I was leading the delegation when Aristide was first overthrown. And we had to find out how the youth were doing in the churches in Haiti. So I had to lead a delegation to Haiti to tour the university and do a fact-finding mission for how the youth in Haiti were coping. Because at that time, if you remember, Leslie Maniga was in power, very dominant man. And then I was called back. So I had to go to places like Rwanda, Nairobi, Kenya, Ghana, Nigeria,
You've been to all
Johannesburg, South Africa. Yes, so I've had
put some respect on Simeon's name.
I've had to be going to those places to work. Then one of the most trying times was, I don't know if you remember, but the Ogoni massacre in Nigeria, where the oil, they had this Ken Sawaya was killed, and so I had to go to be part of that team to investigate his killing and report back, because the thing was, the program dealt with the theology. What are the threats to life? How do you overcome the threats to life? And secondly, the program to overcome violence, because we had to do. So then I became partner as a result of that of the International Committee on the Program to Overcome Violence. So then we had to visit cities of violence. So at that time there was the trouble in Colombo, Sri Lanka. There was the gang warfare in Dorchester, Massachusetts. There was the problem with the small arms conflict in Rio de Janeiro, Brazil. There was a problem with the disputes, a lot of disputes in downtown Kingston at the time. There was the problem of the Dalit problem in India. There was a problem in Bosnia-Herzegovina, where at that time, I don't know if you remember, the Serbs and so were fighting with each other, and Northern Ireland, back to Northern Ireland. So we launched a program of Peace to 7 cities. And so we had to be going to those cities to look at how peace can come back to this. As a matter of fact, I will tell you, I'm not sure if you remember of the Dayton Accord for Northern Ireland. Well, part of our contribution when Bill Clinton and Secretary Mitchell coined that peace treaty in Northern Ireland, some of the peace treaty recommendations came from our fact-finding mission to Northern Ireland, and that's how it came about. So these are my, and then I also worked with Heart Trust Jamaica, and that to me is one of my biggest disappointments in work. I'll tell you why. Because while in Jamaica, I did an internship at Heart Trust Jamaica, Human Employment and Resource Training Institute. And so I was asked by Garylin Reese at the time, the executive director of Heart Jamaica, to become a youth counselor in Jamaica for the Heart Trust Foundation. That I did, and I would have to go to all the different youth training institutes in Jamaica. So Runaway Bay, Kenilworth, Stony Hill, Portmore, all those places there, and two things. Now, why I say it's a disappointment to me, because when I came back, I wrote a recommendation, very much like the NEP we have now, to the then government of Dominica. Gertrude Roberts was Minister of Social Services at the time. I wrote an entire project for that program to come to Dominica, where you take young people who have not finished high school, who cannot find a job. You have a program where you train them for 6 months, communications, customer service skills, interpersonal relationships, all the different basics for employability. And then what you would do, you would assign them to their different areas of employment. That recommendation was made to the UWP government at the time, to Gertrude Roberts, and nothing became of it.
Nothing happened.
I also did a project for the young people of Calabishi to train 25 young people in Calabishi. I think I sent you these pictures of that, so that we would empower the youth, because I saw Calabishi as a tourism haven. So to establish the first tourism training institute in Dominica, in Calabishi, using my parents' restaurant, the Almond Beach restaurant, doubling up with St. Andrews High School at the time, and working with, at that point, Elizabeth Liz Karam was staying at Coconut Beach Hotel, and she had agreed, along with our restaurant, to start the training of young people from Woodfordville and Calibishi at last in hospitality skills. So we would begin a hospitality school in Dominica. That again, and that was never taken on board, unfortunately. So that are two regrets of these two suggestions. Well, unfortunately, were never taken on board. But I still see the need for it. And unfortunately, that is why I was misunderstood when I criticized the NEP program. Because I said you cannot take young people and just put them in a job. I think it's okay. It's a very noble program. It's a very valid program. It's good that you are providing. But what should happen is you have a structure. You ask them to apply. You give them some induction training in basic writing skills, communication skills, customer service skills. You orient them to do. And then you give them training if it's in hospitality, carpentry, beauty, and then you distribute them. And that would be okay. And how that would be financed, you see, is that all the businesses in Dominica would be given would have to contribute 3% of their profits to run in that program. And the government in turn will give them a 5% tax rebate at the end of the year for having given 3% of their profits to run those training programs. So we could have, and it would be an upgrade of the youth skills, because I think we have passed the youth skills training program in Dominica. We move beyond skills. We need to look at human resource development. And it's not only the hands. You have to be able to think critically. You have to help people to be able to reason. You have to help people to use their heads, to communicate, to improve their interpersonal skills, their customer service skills. That's what you have to do across the island. So you would upgrade your youth skills training program. You would ask all the young people to sign in. You don't just take them and place them places and pay them. No, you have a national youth employment training program where you train them. At the end of the day, they are given certificates. You assess them on their punctuality, their regularity, their participation, their adaptability to the skills, their ability to do certain things. And that is how you would assess them and know whether they are ready for the employment market. And then you will be selling out into the public sector and the private sector more skilled, more knowledgeable, more in-depth young persons ready to face the world of work. I think that is where it should go.
Makes sense.
So I criticized that, and I was told that I'm criticizing the NEP program. That's not what it is. That's how I do it. Were you given an opportunity though to explain? Well, what we have registered in Dominica where people are not allowed the opportunity to defend. People hear things about people, they carry rumors, they carry things, and then you are penalized and victimized for it. And that's the way it goes.
When did teaching come into play? Teaching
came into play at various stages in my life, both in church and then I taught in Trinidad. I taught in Jamaica, okay. I taught moral and spiritual development in Jamaica and English, and I also taught religion. And for a very short period, I acted as principal at a school in Trinidad, okay, and was also heading a large school in Jamaica, thousands of students and hundreds of teachers. But it was only because at the time I fitted in. So for instance, there's a school in Jamaica, it's a Catholic school, where I was sort of asked to hold on for a while. And that I did. I left it, I came back. So one day I'm sitting on my porch in Calibishi. My father had just died. So put it this way, I had to leave my high-paying job in Switzerland and come back to Dominica. I was in Dominica when my father passed, but I was at that time doing consultancy for the Caribbean Conference of Churches on civil society, thematic and people like that. So I was supposed to be in Dominica for 3 months doing a consultancy for the Caribbean Conference of Churches to prepare a report for the World Conference of Churches, because at that time they were trying to look at civil society and gospel and cultures debate. And so I was doing that. But then my father had a sudden stroke in May 1992, and he died. My family being overseas, it fell on me to be the only one to stay here with my mother. So I prayed about it. I was almost becoming despondent because I had gone for an interview. And between you and I.
Between you and I?
Yeah, well, it's going to go out now. And I was successful in that interview, but while I was successful in that interview, word came from a politician that I should not be employed in that position. So I became very despondent at the time, but still, I was still doing short stints with the Caribbean Conference of Churches office in Jamaica, in Antigua, with people like Mamba Liverpool and David Spencer. So I was sitting on my porch one day in Calabishi, quite despondent, you know.
Yes.
Broken about it.
Yeah.
And then at that time I was in a novena to St. Joseph, because St. Joseph is the patron saint for unemployed people.
Okay.
So I did a 9-day novena to St. Joseph. Father Celsus was the parish priest at the time. I said, Father, I'd like you to lift me up in prayer because I need to find something to do. I'll share with you no secret. My salary in Geneva at the time was 12,000 Swiss francs. That's about 22,000 EC dollars.
No kidding.
So I had to leave that and come back to Dominica. I'm just sharing that with you because
Between you and that.
Yeah, between you
Yes.
and that, it's in the spotlight, and
Yes.
I mean, there are things sometimes. I promised to be totally open.
You
with
did.
So I had to leave that. As a matter of fact, Webster Murray, one of my proteges in Calabishi, but when you work in because I used to, but he always used to be, because he wasn't seeing me getting up to here. But you see, at that point, it was a lot of consultancy.
Right.
And so I came back. And so then I had to give that up. I had to let them know that there's no way I could come back to Switzerland because my father had died and my mother was alone at home. And not only that, after my father died, it befell on me to be the family executor. So that was very trying for me. I said, I'm sitting on my porch one day, and you would not believe, no, the day the novena ended to St. Joseph, the day the novena ended to St. Joseph, I finished saying my novena to St. Joseph and St. Jude, patron saint of impossible cases. I'm sitting on my porch one evening, and a gentleman in a blue vehicle stopped opposite the road. I'm looking for Simeon Joseph. I said, this is he. No, I said, who's looking? My typical me. Who's looking? Who wants to see Simeon Joseph? If you know him, can you lead me to him? I am Martin Roberts. I am looking for him. I said, okay, this is he. He said he had a board meeting in the afternoon, and the board, he was looking for a principal, and the board decided that there's a gentleman in Calabish by Simeon Joseph who could be the principal. So I said, okay, that's me. And then he said, come and see me tomorrow. And there began my process of becoming principal of the Marriott Foundation High School.
So just a pause here. Mm-hmm. So is that your indication that novenas work?
Oh, that's not an indication, it's a confirmation. Throughout my life, I've had to present my petitions to God through the saints, and I don't care what anybody says. Novenas do work.
They do.
If you pray fervently, there are people who don't believe in that, but throughout my life, I have had to pray to various saints. And I believe in the intercession of the saints because there's the church militant and there's the church triumphant. People may disagree with me. That's my conviction. I can testify to the fact that I have often had to call on the saints to intercede for me, and they have worked. I'm not going to think that. So then,
Principal,
Marriott Foundation High School, rough first year. When I started the school, there were 28 students there. So when I went, I said, but this is where I am. Now, that same month, listen to this, the volcano in Montserrat erupted. And I was at Mapping at the time, doing full story.
Yes.
Right.
I remember I went to Montserrat.
Right, doing full story.
Yes.
So I was balancing the two.
Okay.
Bishop Reese at the time told me I need a principal for Montserrat Secondary School because Camilla Watts had moved from principal at the time into politics. So he said, I need you. I also need a principal for St. Joseph Academy. Choose one. I said, Bishop, I've been away from Dominica for 10 years. I can't leave my mother. Now it's time for me to stay in Dominica. He said, bring your mother to Antigua. I said, I don't think my mother can leave and come to Dominica now. Let me think about it for a year.
Yes.
Let me think about it for a year. He said, I'm giving you Montserrat, I'm giving you Antigua. The brothers at that time were transitioning out of St. Joseph's Academy in Antigua. So I said, a bishop, no. So I spoke to a bishop priest. I said, no, I need to get back to Dominica and think about it. It's a major change in my life. I need to pray about it. I need to speak to. But I'm the kind of person, Ferdinand, I do not talk to people about my plans. My left hand never knows what my right hand. If you think you can track me down into what I'm going to do, you'll get lost. And you'll get frustrated. Okay? You'll get frustrated. Don't ever ask me my next move. Don't ever ask me what I'm going to do. Don't. And I will share with who. I have a spiritual director. I have 1 or 2 very good friends. And I have 1 sister in my family that I will consult with, or another one if I find I need another opinion, and then another one, I'm not mentioning the names, if I want to be sure about what I'm doing. That's how I do it. That's how I do it. And so I came back to Dominica. I couldn't leave my mother alone. And then I stayed in Marigot Foundation for that year. Subsequently, the school transitioned to Marigot Secondary School. And so I stayed at Marigot Secondary School for a while, and then eventually to the last school that I was at.
You refer to it as the last school, Simeon, but it's the Dominica Grammar School.
Yes.
And you were the principal there, and I'm not sure how much you want to say about your experience there. But maybe you can share at least just a little bit.
Well, I'll punctuate you to the fact that that's the biggest professional mistake of my life.
The biggest professional mistake.
That's a place I should not have gone, and that's a place I should not have stayed.
Oh my.
That's how I feel about it. That's why on my resumes, that's why on anything I refer to, I don't even say I was principal Dominica.
Are you kidding me?
Because these were 5 trying years of my life.
In what context?
Within the context, there was a lot of opposition, there was a lot of vendetta, there was a lot of polarization, there was a lot of, I wasn't given a chance. Actually, when I was going there, my sister Mima was supervisor secondary school. And she said, don't go, because I know you, I know what is happening there, and you will not last there. So it so happened that I have a very good friend who lives in Bath Estate, and he had a son going to grammar school. So unsuspecting to them, I just said, let me visit them one Sunday. And I spoke to the young man about grammar school. I had friends who went to grammar school with me, so I would just talk. And then I had a very good friend from childhood whose girlfriend was a teacher at the school. So I invited them to Calabishi to lunch one Sunday, just to get a feel. I never told anybody what was happening. And in speaking to them, when that teacher told me, she's ready to leave that school, I said, that's it, I will go. Because my sister Mima sometimes can be a bit paranoid. She can be a bit skeptical.
Was she though?
It proved not. I found that I wasn't really wanted there by the Ministry of Education. There were a lot of cliques, teachers who were pledged allegiance to former principals, teachers who opposed me at every turn, teachers who fought me at every step of the way. There was the political to and fro from people from this party and that party who, attacked me for some reason or the other. And so I felt the pressure of the politicians. I felt the betrayal of staff. I felt the attack of parents. And so I just said, at one point I felt very ominous. Now on the 10th of November 2007, I had a very strong spiritual attack. While sleeping in my dream, I was attacked by 3 black dogs. 3 black dogs, tearing at me, goring at my neck, biting at my feet, biting on my side. And when I got up that night, I was numb. I couldn't speak. I could not even pray. I tried to say the prayer of St. Michael. I couldn't say it. Anyway, I got up and I dashed for my holy water, my holy salt, and I blessed my entire room. When I put on my light, my entire room was in dégagement. Very powerful spirit. So I had to kneel and pray, and I prayed until daybreak. And at 4 o'clock, I took holy oil, I took holy water, and I went to grammar school. I anointed every door, every mantelpiece, every gate, every desk, every chair.
But they must have thought you were.
And nobody knew.
Okay.
I'm saying that now. I think that's the first time I'm revealing that.
Okay.
And I went back home. I came back to school and I was praying my rosary in the morning, walking into my office. And lo and behold, I rang the bell and teachers at the gate. I don't understand what's happening. I knew nothing. One teacher said that I saw and I passed her straight. And so the others took it as theirs. So I told myself at that time that is going to be the end. So I stayed the last year very quiet in prayer, in constant meditation, always cleansing myself and praying a lot. And I decided then, I told Vince Henderson in the 10th of April, 10th of November, 10th of April, I marked the days and I said on the 10th of April, I'm going to tell him I no longer want to be here. Because there were lots of, can you imagine, Ferdinand, I bought a vehicle at Auto Trade once upon a time with my money, and it was said I took grammar school money to buy a car.
Why?
That's the dagger that was there. Carl Nassif can tell you my money was going to Royal Bank, and that's what I was told. I was accused of stealing grammar school auditorium funds.
Oh my God.
And those sorts of things. By
so you were accused of theft?
I was blasted on the newspaper, Matt newspaper, and that's why I told Matt I'll pray for him for his newspaper to close. Because he will publish something about somebody one day and it will shut it down. Matt can tell you that. But then he told me at the time, he didn't want to print it, but then there's a teacher at the school whose husband had a newspaper. So he asked him to print it because he didn't want to implicate his wife. And so he told me that. And that is it. And then the school was audited. And luckily, when the audit report came back, it said, but luckily, you know, that kind of thing. So I just decided.
But by then it was your name was already tarnished.
Yes, and students would come to me, and then strange enough, there are teachers and parents who would come to me and tell me, be careful with this. And I was walking a hornet's nest over there. But I still had to show up every day. Nobody knew what I was going through. Go to school every day at 7 and leave at 5. Sacrifice my lunch. I was sent there because my motto in life, in work, is bloom where you are planted. And I will bloom where I am planted until I am uprooted.
What was your objective when you went to grammar school? What was it you were trying to
To
do?
restore the integrity and the name of the school to a premier learning institution that it was when I went there. And to inculcate into the students a holistic program of human development. That it was not only academics. That you had to bring in sports, for instance, which grammar school was known for, was almost dead. The extracurricular program of the school almost non-existed. There was no visible student development program. It was just purely academics. Things like streaming and standardized testing, these antiquated forms of education where you put children in brackets, etc. And that is why when I was there, I did things like narrowing down the curriculum for some students from 7 to 5. I also reformed the graduation criteria for merit, distinction, and pass, and brought in civic duty so students could earn credits to graduation. So these are the things that I did. I aligned the school with schools in the Caribbean. Last week, I sent teachers to Barbados, Montserrat, and Wheeler to look at the structure of large schools to ensure that they learned about the development of teachers. So, you know, you had to bring the school in, and the vast improvement of the IT program. So you had to bring the school into the 21st century. I found the school was residing in the 1980s. And so you had to bring the school into the 21st century. I expanded it. As a matter of fact, one time when an education officer came to the school and saw a number of extracurricular groups like hiking, fitness, adventure, the first thing she said was, these are too many extracurricular. I said, I have 1,003 students. I want to make sure at least every school, and she, that's too many.
That's everybody gets to participate.
That everybody gets to participate. So everything I tried, I was opposed, particularly by the hierarchy of the Ministry of Education. And I felt I was not wanted there.
So you were not going to stay?
I wasn't going to stay. I'm that kind of person. I'll stay until I'm needed, and if I feel I'm not. And that's why I took early retirement. I'm not due for retirement. But I've always said in life.
I was wondering.
Yes, I've always said in life, the moment I get up in the morning and I don't have a passion to fulfill my purpose, I am not staying. I'm not going to be bothered about how I eat, how I sleep. God will provide. But I do not want to go to work just for the sake of going to work to have a job. No. I am a very passionate person. I like to see people succeed. I have a drive to ensure that things reach a certain level of perfection and there's an optimum output. And if I get up in the morning, I'm not going to bathe and dress on me just to show up. No, I want to make sure that where I'm going has a purpose, and I can engage my passion in fulfilling that purpose. So it reached a point in the Ministry of Education after 10 years of, we could call, almost absolute victimization. And for the past 10 years of my life, it has been very strenuous, very painful, going to work and almost being sidelined and excluded and made to feel like I don't belong. I reached the point where I said, you know something, let me leave the super job for them and go at my own and sit down.
So that's it.
That's it. And I took early retirement.
You took early retirement.
I took early retirement. There's no way.
Because from grammar school, you went to...
So I went to the Ministry of Education and I started there. And then, no offense to anyone, but my position was Public Relations and Communications Officer. In 2011, a communications officer was brought into the ministry without even asking me what I think. And my portfolio was Public Relations and Communications and Events. But they brought in a communications officer. But I still worked very well with her because Ministry of Education is of my father's estate. And if she's there to make things better, and she's damn good at what she does, she's an excellent person. I recommend her to the world, to Joseph Biden to improve his polls, standing in the polls. I would recommend her to do it. And that's the kind of person that I am. I work very closely with somebody I've come to love very much. We have a very good working. I had no ill feelings about her. But that was it. So
it's just the way it was done.
It's just the way it was done. And then it took these people 8 years before they could appoint me. And I only got my appointment because of the fact that there was a principal who had to run for politics. And so that was the only reason I was appointed. I have applied for so many assistants to the studies, it hasn't come. While I'm in the ministry, twice I pursued studies through my credit card. I've asked for assistance it has not been granted. It reached a stage where I said, you know something, it's not my job. My father didn't leave it for me as part of his estate. God has a bigger plan for me, and throughout my life, I have always put up resistance. I'm a child of God. And there's a saying, the Lord rides straight with crooked lines. That people don't understand. Sometimes he wants you to go somewhere, but before he allows you to reach where you want to reach, he sends you obstacles, he sends you difficulties, he gives you mountains and valleys to test you and to prove your worth, because he has a greater plan for you. I believe the past 10 years of victimization, of alienation, of exclusion is because God was preparing me, my sinews, my strength, my energies, my intellect for something bigger which is to come. And believe you me, for that, it's coming.
I would definitely be interested in knowing what is coming. I want to find out from you, Simeon. I want to go down this road just slightly, briefly. Politics.
Yeah.
How do you feel about politics?
I love politics. I am very aghast at people who say they don't want to get involved in politics, because politics, the etymological meaning of the word politics has to do with people. Polis, Latin word meaning polis. And so therefore, you cannot be engaging people in not being politics, because politics has to do with people's economic life, their social life, their everything. And so you cannot say, I'm not involved in politics. You may not want to be involved in party politics.
Are you? Is that something you would be interested in?
No, I've been invited. In 1995, Rosie Douglas came to my home and asked me to run for the Bay Bush constituency. And I think he must have been encouraged by his sister, Joan Kozatik, at the time, because after church one Sunday, she said, I'm going to tell my brother to come behind you. And Rosie did come. But my father knew Matthew Walters instead. So he said, okay, my father didn't want us to go into politics. He forbade us to go into active politics. And so in 1995, Rosie Douglas came and he said, I would like to invite you to think of politics. Then in that same year, Freedom Party was looking for somebody for Paybush. So they came to my cousin, Elroy Pioche. Elroy came one day and said, Sim, I want to see you. These people are asking me to go up for election Freedom Party. I said, Freedom Party? You don't know Freedom Party's man and what they did to my father. But Elroy had always been Freedom. So I said, but you don't know what kind of thing you asked me to go for Freedom Party. I don't want to go for Freedom Party. You know what I'm saying? And then Edison James has also approached me for United Workers Party. I believe you can do service to country in many other ways. I have studied political science as well, and I know about governance and administration and political science. But I do not believe you have to be in active partisan politics to contribute to the development of your country. And so, but I'm a political person. Yeah. I speak my mind clearly on political matters. I am strongly aligned to the political party that I subscribe to, much to the disgust, the hatred, and the sidelining of people, but I don't care, because I do not support a political party because of personalities. My political allegiance is based on philosophies and principles and practices.
And as we speak, do you have a political allegiance?
Yes, I have a political allegiance. I'm not going to say it here. It's not necessary to be said. There's some things that are not necessary to be said to people. But as I said, I support political parties because of their philosophy, their principles, and their practice. And if I am attracted to your philosophy, your principle, and your practice, that is why when I support a political party, nothing is going to make me shift away unless I see a different philosophy, principle, or practice. And your practice is guided by your principles and your philosophy. So if your practice is one that undermines a sound philosophy and principle, I won't be part of it.
All right. Simeon, we have to get to the point where we're going to wrap up, but I must find out from you, where do you go from here? So, pre-retirement, early retirement?
Early retirement.
Yes.
I'm a child of God.
Yes, you're a child of God.
I believe God has a plan for me. I never do anything without a strong discernment process. I have asked God to indicate to me where He would like to lead me. Where He leads me, I will follow. Where He leads me, I will follow. I believe that I know that I'm a talented person, and it's not arrogant to say that. I can be of service to anyone who wants me, and I will be of service to anyone who asks me.
And just to pause quickly, we may not get time to speak about them because we have to wrap up.
Yeah.
But you're a wedding planner.
Yes.
You're a decorator. You study culinary arts, which means you can events management and all of that good stuff.
And to crown it off,
yes.
I brought something for you.
Oh, you did! I love gifts.
It's a gift. I'm not sure if you'll relish in it. So I brought it as a means of showing my appreciation. So in this, I brought you a sample of various cakes that I make. So you will have in here, I brought you a piece of limoncello cake, Malibu cake.
Bring it up to the camera so you can see. Yeah.
Well,
this one right there. That's it.
So,
Tilty, that's it.
Limoncello cake.
Oh my.
Custard coconut pie, Malibu cake, carrot cheesecake, and 2 types of fruit cake. Dense fruit cake and light fruit cake.
Oh my goodness.
So Fudaida, I know you will enjoy this.
I will. So I may not be able to have much of all. But at
so yeah, as a surprise to you.
Thank you for that. I really appreciate that.
That's me. Today a friend of mine asked me why I never opened a pastry shop, but I'm not into that. No, I'm not into competing with people. There are enough of people doing things outside there. If somebody wants it, fine. And similarly, that's why I've moved out of wedding decorating and chef, because right now I'm convinced that there are enough of people in Dominica who can do wedding decorating. So I'm just shifting to planning and coordinating. That's enough.
Okay.
And I can pass on decorating to people. I can pass on catering to people. I can pass on things. Because the knowledge of wedding planning, I teach that course at UE. And someday I'm satisfied that we're going to have a good cadre of wedding planners in Dominica. So that's it.
That's it. So, but I still believe there's still a lot more to come from Simeon Joseph. Simeon, I know that the listeners, I didn't even get to play a song.
You should
the song that will be used in the video. I will have to find, I know it's on my phone somewhere. I'm not sure which one of them it is. So probably if you can just tell me which one it is quickly.
We'll see.
Just a second, as we're getting ready to wrap things up.
It's wonderful.
These are all those you sent to me.
Let me see which one.
All right, so guys, I know you would love us to stay, and I mean, we are, people are still awake.
Really?
Yes.
Which one is it?
Exactly. You said
I don't even know.
You sent me quite a few.
Okay, so let me see if I can get it for you quickly.
Yes,
Oh,
yes.
here it is. Imagine I clicked the right one. Here it is.
Oh, there we go.
Here we are.
So Simeon, we have to wrap things up. I really do appreciate this.
Yes. And I'm leaving the fork with you. So every time you eat cake, remember.
Oh my goodness. Simeon, we have to wrap things up on the program. Actually, I have to play this from we play this in the background as we get some final comments from Simeon Joseph.
Okay, so my final comments for Nana are very simple.
Very simple.
And it's one of gratitude. I want to first of all thank God for my parents, my brothers and sisters. I cannot leave here tonight without thanking God for the village of Calabishi, where my navel string is buried, where my family has come from, and for the people who have affected my life in one way or the other. It has not been an easy journey in life, but I would like to encourage people on this final note that stay positive. And as I said in the thing, never give up on the good. All right? Always look on the brighter side. And remember, in the midst of every darkness that you will go through, there is not only a candle, but within the darkness is a realm of good that you can search for and find it.
Simeon Joseph, listen, what a way to start off our 2022 In the Spotlight radio show programs. You were excellent, you were bold, you were brave. I got the honesty from you, and I really truly thank you for sharing the way that you did tonight on the program. And you know, people are commenting and saying, you know, what a powerful program. People are sending me messages, you know, via my WhatsApp and in my inbox, you know. And if you thought tonight's program was a really good program, what you learned from it, how it impacted you, you can send me a message, or you can comment under the live of the show, even after, you know, we're done with the live. But this was truly an awesome experience tonight with Simeon Joseph, and we'll do our after the show with him once we wrap it up here. Thank you again, everyone, for tuning into the program. We have our guest for next week Monday already locked down, so look out for the promotional video sometime later on in the week. This is it for the In the Spotlight radio show for tonight. Never giving up. Simeon Joseph, the 3 years was worth the wait. Thank you, Simeon, and good night, everyone. Remember to follow our pages, our In the Spotlight radio show page, and also subscribe to our YouTube channel. It's on Fedina F. Frampton. We do appreciate your support every time, all the time, and thank you to all those who support the program in some form or the other. Good night, until next time.